welcome to a new episode of the Game Informer Show podcast. I'm Ben Hansen, joined by Matt Miller.
Hello.
And Joe Juba.
Hello.
Hey, exciting show this time, guys.
I'm looking forward to it.
Normally it's about a 7 out of 10. This one's going to be a real 9 out of 10er. I can feel it right now. We're talking about a new cover story, The Outer Worlds from Obsidian. Very exciting. The three of us went out to Obsidian, I don't know, like a month ago or something like that.
Yeah.
A few weeks back.
Yeah.
Right after the new year.
That's right. And learned all about the game. And then we came back and recorded our most anticipated Games of 2019 episode of the podcast. And Joe came out swinging with The Outer Worlds. And then put us in a weird spot of like, oh, no, we can't say anything that we know.
But to be fair, I was excited for The Outer World. Like, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to go on that trip in the first place. Like, I was excited about that game.
Okay, perfect. We know a lot about the game. We'll talk all about it. Then after that, we're going to talk about the, new Respawn game, Apex Legends, that launched this week. We'll have the Battle Royale crew in here. And then Leo is looking to talk about some game for Deviants called Weedcraft Inc. We'll try that. Sunless Skies after that. And then some fun community emails in the back half of the show. Here's an oddball. In this office, the Game Informer office in Minnesota, we were joined by the producer of the EDF series, Joe, your favorite, Earth Defense Force.
From Sandlot?
No, actually, I think he's from the publisher.
Oh, from D3.
That's right. And Sandlot isn't developing the game this time because the new one, Earth Defense Force Iron Rain, is from Ukes, which is a studio that makes those, debatably mediocre WWE games, but it's a weird studio to tap for a new Earth Defense Force game.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. Well, I'm sure there's a whole segment coming up on it, but yeah, they tried that sort of more Western angle on it with Insect Armageddon several years ago.
How'd that go?
I kind of liked that game. It didn't feel like normal EDF to me, but
yeah,
I enjoyed playing it.
Okay.
I mean, I think there's some buzz about this new one, right? Like, there's some people who are kind of stoked about it.
There's some buzz, all right.
Especially since, I reviewed EDF 5 recently, and at some point, like, that old formula, as much as I like it, like, they are really tapping into the most recent EDF game feels functionally identical to the EDF game I loved a decade ago.
Right. And I think a big reason for that, as we talk about in this interview, is the producer's like, he knows exactly what he wants from EDF games. And he says, I'm not going to let it change. So it's a fun chat just about, cranking out what some deem as budget titles. He's been doing it his entire career. He's talking about, at one point, he was working on producing 30 to 40 games that were releasing in 1 year. That's just the cycle, is just cranking out these games for $20 or whatever it is back in the day. So it's an interesting chat and a rare perspective. So stay tuned for that. For now, if you're just tuning in for The Outer Worlds, hey, thanks for watching and listening to this show. You can subscribe to the audio version, which is very handy. We're on Google Play, iTunes, we're on Spotify. Anything that can play audio, we're technically playing it there. So if you don't want to watch this, you can listen to it there. But The Outer Worlds, let's get to it. Okay,
yeah.
So we went out to Obsidian. Let's see. Maybe just a biggest impression, Miller.
Yeah, The Outer Worlds is, in a lot of ways, what I think you hope it's going to be.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think it got a lot of excitement from the community out there because it looked like it was this is like Fallout, but it's not Fallout, and it's in outer space, so it's a new setting, and I'm excited about that. And it's from the people who made the original Fallout. All of the resulting conclusions that your mind might be coming to, or at least most of them, are kind of accurate. This is a game that feels a lot like the tone of Fallout, but with its own twist. It's sort of exploring a mix between pulp sci-fi with, ray guns and rocket ships and stuff like that, put through the lens of modern capitalism and sort of poking fun of that.
It's a whole thing. At some point, Fergus, the CEO of Obsidian, said that the original pitch that they had internally was, let's make something that's Firefly meets Fallout.
Yeah,
and then at a certain point, I think it was Leonard, he said that one of the big epiphanies is coming up with a vision of kind of a diesel punk Deadwood was one of his tones that he had in mind for one area at least.
And so it feels like the way you would hope that a game like this would feel. I think one of the things that we came away with that was an important impression is that they were refreshingly honest with us about the scope of the game, right? This is a first outing for this franchise. It isn't a Fallout that, has years and years of background and a giant publisher behind it pouring, hundreds of millions of dollars in. It's not the most gigantic game that's ever been made.
Totally.
But it is one that feels like every part of it is being crafted and created to hit a particular vibe and give people that sense that they want of a choice-driven RPG where you're doing things that your playthrough is going to be very different from Joe's playthrough, which is going to be different from my playthrough.
They definitely know their audience. It's really refreshing. It's like, this is an RPG-ass RPG studio, and it's like they know exactly what they like from the RPGs, which is very fun to have Joe there, because Joe's such a big systems guy when it comes to RPGs. So
I do like that stuff.
Hear him bounce off to figure out how the skill progression works, and like every time they would talk about a skill check, Miller, I saw your eyeballs bulge out of your skull like a cartoon wolf. It's just like a good, satisfying RPG deep dive on this cover story trip.
Yeah, one thing I do want to clarify a little bit, because like Miller was talking about with the scope, and this game being everything you think it was, just to put it in plain terms, and I don't mean that this is bad, but like you might see this game and think this is Fallout New Vegas again, right? Like this is Fallout New Vegas with a more like diesel punk Deadwood sort of look, and I mean the impression I got from them is like it is not that big.
No, it's not. There's a lot of debate internally about how do we frame how big this thing is. Some people are like KOTOR 2. Some people are like, I guess Fallout New Vegas, but no, not quite. It's smaller than that. It's maybe even smaller than KOTOR 2. Like, I see a lot of confusion out there on the internet still, and a lot of comments of people being like, this is Obsidian Cyberpunk. It's like, no. Like,
but I think with all that being said, I also did not get the impression that this is like, oh, you're going to play this game for like 6 hours and be done.
No.
Yeah.
Like,
at some point, Leonard said, he said, hey, you'll get a decent gameplay experience. It's not a 5-hour game, I promise.
Yeah.
Unless there's some speedrunners in the future, but it's not going to be like a 5-hour experience.
Even what we saw and the areas that we saw, which was only one part of the game, made it really clear to me that this is going to feel like a robust role-playing experience. The skill system that they have in place, there's no way you'd be able to like fully flesh that out and experience it in a really short game. It's not that. But I just, in a lot of ways, I wish that the community around the game would focus on other things about it, because like I know that there's an excitement about, well, it's going to be this gigantic game, or no, it's not going to be that. But the real kicker for me is understanding that like a lot of that doesn't matter if the game itself, the thing you're playing, is really fun and it's replayable and there's lots of options that you can like go back and play through it again and have a totally different experience. And I think that's what they're going for.
Totally. And I think like from my perspective, I really love South Park Stick of Truth, and going on that cover story trip back in 2011 and visiting Obsidian, I had flashbacks to that, because as much as I love that game, they were talking about like, we want you to really feel an attachment to every weapon you get and really savor all these experiences. And then Stick of Truth was definitely on the shorter end of the spectrum, and it was just like rapid fire systems, here's a new mechanic, here's a new weapon, okay, that's useless, you're in a new room, now you have a new weapon. And so I think that ended up hurting the gameplay and kind of the progression systems in some way. So I think they definitely maybe learned some lessons from that game overall. And for this game then, it's a lot of confusing phrasing, I think, for the average gamer about like, it's not a AAA game, it's a AA game. We don't have infinite
what
budget.
does that mean?
And they kept just saying, hey, time and budget were like huge for this thing. But it's important to remember too, it's not even like 2K publishing this thing. It is Private Division, which is kind of the indie side label for 2K.
Yeah.
So it is a constrained development. And they definitely talked a lot about, there's a real budget on this thing. We're really doing the most we can, but don't expect the moon.
Yeah. But I want to say, like, from the time that I saw, like, this game did not scream like budget title to me.
No, it didn't to me either.
No.
And and as tempting as it is to sort of make it's Obsidian, it's like minds behind Fallout, like as tempting as it is to sort of immediately jump to that New Vegas connection, I think that there's a lot going on in the Outer Worlds that like recommends it as its own thing and not just the way that it like recalls something else, right?
Yeah.
I think a lot of the tone in particular is what recalls Fallout, that idea of this sort of meeting point between humor and dark social commentary. It's different things they're commenting on here than they are in Fallout. I think oftentimes of Fallout as being a lot about like talking about the futility of war and the way that people like do violence against each other and that kind of thing, and that's what that game is most concerned with. And this game is really interested in things like capitalism and the absurdity of tribalism and the way that people like put themselves into camps that don't really have any meaning, and why are you doing that?
It was fun talking to them about the lore and the setup for this game. That was maybe the most fun part, is just talking about world building with these guys.
Yeah.
But they had an interesting take, which is like, hey, in the world of the Outer Worlds, or the universe of the Outer Worlds, however you want to frame it, however you want to frame it there's no racism or sexism, but there's a ton of classism.
Yeah.
It's just more classism than you could possibly expect. Like fun details, like the idea of being unemployed in this world.
It's you're like a leper or something.
It is
like,
horrific and scary. And they had a fun way of putting it at some point where they said, ultimately, Tim said, it's a dystopia that thinks it's a utopia.
Yep.
Which is a very funny perspective on this thing.
Yeah, I love it. The whole world is built around these like corporations that have bought up a whole solar system. So imagine all the worst corporations you can think of in the world, advance them a couple hundred years into the future, and then they get together as a little cabal and go off to the distant edge of the galaxy and establish an entire society of colonists built on how to maximize corporate profit, right? And things have gone like horribly wrong because, of course, that didn't work.
One of my favorite details about this was the fact that like the comparison being, imagine at like your workplace in your like kitchen or break room or whatever, there's that big sign on the wall that's like employees' rights. These are your rights as an employee. They say that like in the universe of the Outer Worlds, that sign in a workplace would be a list of employers' rights.
Yeah. It's a very simple way of looking at it, yeah for sure. So everyone's just obsessed with corporations. Like the city we saw is Edgewater, and they're obsessed with salt tuna.
Yeah, a salmon tuna hybrid that they all they do is can it. They don't even produce it.
Right.
They're just the canning plant. But they haven't been getting like the same amount of salt tuna coming in for them to can, and so they've started adding additives that are going to make it more healthy,
which
namely rocks.
Yeah.
Good minerals and stuff.
Minerals.
But they're all still completely buying the corporate line.
Oh,
like
totally.
Spacer's Choice is the corporation. They just like casually say the slogans.
It's not the best choice. It's the Spacer's Choice.
That's good.
Right?
That's good. And they even say stuff like, there's a plague infecting Edgewater.
Yeah.
And then the characters will be like, I'm about to go to that great cannery in the sky. Like everything is from the perspective of their careers and from these corporations.
So the basic setup is that your character like has arrived on has been thawed out basically from a second colony ship. So like this area of the galaxy was colonized when a first ship with sort of like essential personnel and resources came. Mm-hmm. And then they were waiting on the second colony ship full of the people who would sort of, lubricate all the gears essentially.
Right.
And that ship, for reasons that I don't think that they've totally gone into, but that ship arrived late.
Like really late.
Really late. So by the time it gets there, the society's already sort of underway and kind of collapsing.
And they kind of forgot that there was even a second ship on the way.
Well,
or they stopped counting on, they stopped like looking for it, you know? And then it got there, and then when it got there, they didn't quite know what to do about it because they didn't really have the resources to support all these people now. And so your character is basically someone that a scientist has thought out and has sort of set out. So you're a newcomer to the world.
And it's the fun idea too of, it's like, okay, all these frozen people on the ship, a lot of them are dead or whatever, and the scientist is choosing to thaw one person. So there's like 10,000 people on the racks, and the scientist is choosing, as you create your character, like, let's see, is it this one? Is it this one over here? And because they're all just the dumb menial jobs, that's the point of the second wave, like, it'll give you what your role would have been in this society. It's like, for our demo, it's like, it turns out a character was the elevator operator specialist. Right. That was his sole duty.
Or you're going to be a beverage transporter.
Yes. Yeah. So literally, like, just a waiter.
Yeah.
Right.
Or bartender.
And that was your lot for life.
Your lot in life.
Yeah.
And so, you're kind of going out there in the world, and at least initially, you have this goal. Your scientist who woke you up, Dr. Phineas, right? He is trying to encourage you, like, hey, we got to wake the rest of these colonists up, and there's help. He needs help to do that. And so initially that you think that's kind of the story, and it can be the story, but you can also just turn Phineas in.
He's got a bounty on his head.
He's got a bounty on his head. And so your story could just be something totally different, which again speaks to the kind of game that Obsidian is wanting to make here. One where your choices really make a difference, both in the story as well as in how you progress your character
Like-
and the gameplay.
And yes, systems-wise, like you
Yep.
will just get a boatload of cash for turning this character
Yep.
in, which is
Yeah.
a very fun idea.
Yeah, and I realize that the way we talk about that now makes it sound like this is a sort of one or the like good or evil kind of option when it comes to choice.
Yeah.
But they really don't see it that way. Like the way we talk about it here makes it sound like that. But is it really evil to turn this guy in and get a bunch of money? And like, who knows what? You're not sure that his motivations are the best. And so I think they talk a lot about this like morally gray space that they don't want to make judgments like what you're doing is good or evil. It's just more, it seems like they're taking a more pragmatic approach to player choice, right?
Right. At a certain point, they talked about storylines in the game, and it kind of can branch. It's not so much that they're two separate storyline tracks ultimately the game, but they said it's the same storyline, but you can see it from different angles depending on the choices you make throughout the game.
Well, and you're going to get the thing at the end where you get different ending slides that you see how all your choices have impacted the people you've interacted with and what happened on these different locations you went to. And so it'll have that vibe that I think people who play these kind of games are familiar with what I'm talking about there.
Yeah, and I'm not a Fallout guy like at all, but I love Mass Effect, and so it was a weird thing going into this trip, just expecting Fallout. Maybe I'll play this game. I don't know, but the combination of I got so many good kind of simple Mass Effect vibes, and honestly, the idea of it being a shorter RPG, like that is such a juicy double whammy. Just like a systems focused. Shorter RPG that seems like it's taking a lot of cues from Mass Effect. Like, I'm on board.
I mean, like Mass Effect or KOTOR, one of the things is that it is not a big open world. This, again, speaks to the scope of the game.
Right.
It is a bunch of distinct locales that you go to, and you kind of explore that environment, and then you take off in your rocket ship and you go someplace else. And so if you think about those games like Mass Effect, that's really how it was. There was sometimes the illusion that it was a big open world, where oftentimes, especially in the early Mass Effects, it wasn't, right? It was like you land here and you move along this space and do your objective there, and then you move on to a new thing in a different place.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of doing your objectives, I'm also excited about the sort of like their approach to giving players options for different things.
Yeah,
like,
play style.
Yeah,
options.
the different play style options. Just because it's like I'm used to there are several of them they talk about that seemed like what you would expect, a stealth-focused one, a more combat-focused one. I liked the idea of a more, like, there's one that's a little more like charisma-focused, like persuasion, like you talk your way out of things.
Is that the leadership?
No, but that's even separate from that.
And
right?
then there's a leadership option, which they describe as sort of you augmenting your own skills and leaning more on, you still have your own skills, but it's you sort of using your companions in smart ways to augment your abilities based on different situations too.
Because they're each like tagged with a different skill set that'll affect
Right,
overall
yeah.
what
right.
you have
And
in
these
your
aren't
party.
these aren't like distinct classes that you choose. That's not the kind of game this is. You're not like, hey, I'm a thief, I'm a warrior, or whatever. Like your play style is defined by what you invest your skill points in, the weapons you invest in, that kind of thing.
Yeah, so that leadership idea speaks to a capability to, at least over the scope of the full game, being kind of a generalist, right? Where you're going to put enough points into those leadership capabilities for your character that you can then choose which companion you bring in, and that companion then lends part of their skill set to your own. So if you know you need to go out and you want to do kind of a stealthy run at this one particular mission, then you bring your character who's good, your companion who is good at stealth, and because your leadership is high, you also get some of that stealth.
Right.
And that's neat.
I thought it was a very smart question, Miller. At some point, you're talking to Tim and Leonard, like you mentioned, the original creators of Fallout. And you said that question of, it's a lot of referencing like the early days of interplay in Fallout for design inspirations, but you asked them like, how has your design sensibility evolved since then? Because hey, it's been like over 20 years here, fellas.
Long time.
I don't know exactly how much progression there's been. And they had the interesting take of like, oh, it's basically just getting more and more used to hybrids of classes, like having the stealth combined with the combat, or the leadership thing is kind of that weird, more nebulous area. But that was their take for where they've been, because it's an odd history with those two. They eventually split off. They worked at Troika together, made Vampire Masquerade, The Masquerade. Which, did you play that, Joe?
I didn't play it. I think it's JV who was really into that.
JV's obsessed with it, and then Wildstar and Leonard went and worked on Diablo 3 on the narrative team for, I think he spent like 10 years at Blizzard, something like that. And it's a cool idea that these two then are reunited at Obsidian with their old coworker Fergus as the CEO. And it's like, all right, make a new IP, make it good, here we go.
I mean, that really speaks to what my favorite part of this trip was. And I hope that in our coverage this month, we can communicate some of that. I mean, you put up our rapid fire interview with them that Joe did recently. And it speaks a little bit to this dynamic of these two people who are acting as co-directors here. And I really want people to be able to see that the way that we saw it during our trip there. Because these are two gentlemen who have worked together in games and their careers have like careened back and forth into each other repeatedly, right? And to see a team of such like this partnership that is as creative as they are coming back together after having crafted Fallout so many years ago is really fascinating, right? Because you can see the ways that they just sort of play off of each other's strengths and work together in to find the things that each of them can bring to the game, and that they recognize the things that each of them can bring to the game. And the way that they talk with each other reflects that.
And there's certain design sensibilities that goes back to the CRPG era, stuff like, they have a producer on this game, Eric DeMille, who you find out like, he also worked on Fallout 1, and the reason you can kill everybody in Fallout games is because this Eric guy back in the day, when he was testing the original game, was like, I'm just going to murder absolutely everybody. And they're like, okay, we need to support that. And then that snowball just continues and has a big impact on overall Western RPG design.
Yeah, and when you talk about the way their philosophy has evolved towards game design, I mean, I think we saw a lot of that when we saw The Outer Worlds, but there is a pillar there that still seems very firmly rooted in original Fallout, and that's just that concept of like the player dictating their own path, the player making the choices and making the game that they want to play. I think is, was what that game was that was Fallout, and that still seems to hold true here.
Including like having the dumb option as the playthrough for dialogue options. You can do a dumb run through this entire thing. And it's talking about like, why are you guys so attracted to the idea of doing a dumb playthrough of this game? Why is that an option? It's like, Tim's like, I did some D&D campaign in high school where we thought it was really funny, so now we have to work it into our games. I don't know.
I think that was the other thing about talking with them that really struck home for me is that if you look back through the annals of role-playing game design, especially in North America, how foundational Fallout is hard to overstate, right? And the fact that emerged kind of on a whim almost, right? Like he talks about, I mean, he was getting together with, it was mostly folks he played D&D with, who he just kind of called in and said like, hey, I got a pizza and I wrote this engine for a game and I want to make a game. And they all like got together in like a meeting room and chatted it up while they were at an interplay. But there's also this dynamic between the two of them that they both loved that tabletop role-playing game experience in different ways when they were younger, right? And that led them into wanting to make games like Fallout. And to see that kind of lineage in the way that it has then blossomed out because other people were inspired by that. And now you see it across all sorts of different games, that approach to choice-driven play, and all kind of rooting back to these guys who are like, we liked games like D&D and GURPS where we could make any character we wanted, and we could do anything we wanted, and we wanted to like bring that to the screen. It was really cool to talk with them about it.
Yeah, and just their overall sensibilities too is interesting. Talking about like, we're sick of RPG protagonists by the end of the game being walking gods, as they put it. And so a system that they've been wanting to do for a while, Tim in particular, it seems like, is this flaw system of you can have a weird trade-off at certain points in the game of you can take a flaw, a very real flaw that we can go into for your character, but if you take that permanent flaw, then you also get a perk immediately. And you can have 15 perks, which was like walk faster was one of them. I'm trying to remember other examples.
I think there's some that they're still trying to decide on. I mean,
right.
And I don't even know that the numbers are final. I don't know if we want to put a stamp on 15.
Okay, somewhere around there.
But there's a lot of them, right? And the idea being that you would take these and they're not things you can respec. It lets you respec other aspects of your characters, but your flaws are your flaws. And so if you're afraid of robots, you're afraid of robots, and that's kind of the way that it is. And in exchange, you get a really cool perk, right?
And when they started listing out the perks, it seemed like, okay, because at first you hear that, and it's like, there's no universe where I'm going to accept that deal.
Well, because the flaws, it's not just you're scared of robots. It would be something like you, let's say that as a player, you have multiple encounters with robots and you get like severely damaged. The game tracks all kinds of things like that. So then once you hit a certain threshold of like, wow, this guy's getting his butt kicked by robots. Mm-hmm. The game gives you the option to be like, do you want to be a robophobe? And that means that you take increased damage from robots.
Right.
Or if you like walk through fire a lot and then you take burn damage or whatever, then suddenly it's like, well, hey, do you want to be particularly susceptible to fire?
And the answer is no.
These are not small things where you're like, well, gee, I'm never going to need to use like that stat or that ability. So yeah, I'll take it's like, you're going to run into robots.
It will affect the way you play the game.
There will be fire.
Right.
Like, yeah, it is a cost.
It's a different way, I think, like what you said before about like Tim being a little bit sick of role-playing game design being everything about just fostering this ultimate power fantasy. I mean, obviously that's part of it. You want to level up, you want to get better, that kind of thing. But I think that he is tapping into something that like that in the tabletop role-playing game world has been a fixture for a long time, which is that like sometimes the thing that is fun isn't being the best. It's having a unique character that makes you laugh or that you just like, it's really funny to like take a really low intelligence and then go through conversations and have these choices that all your companions look at you and are like, are you serious right now?
Including this, like even like at the end of the game, you can make a very stupid choice. Your companions are like, no, you don't have this, dude. Don't do it.
Yeah, where you have like a critical misunderstanding of the stakes.
Misunderstanding. And we don't know what it is yet, but that like, it almost makes me want to do the dumb playthrough just to figure out what that thing is at the end of the game, the catastrophic choice that you make just because you're an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you take a step back from that and understand that, like, whether it's the flaws or like taking a low intelligence so you get the dumb things, it's a way of understanding what is fun about role-playing games
right
through the lens of like, you know, narrative and unique characters is what makes it fun a lot of the times, not just I can do 150 damage instead of 100 damage.
And it's such just almost like a weird system, a simple system of trying to bribe gamers to take that flaw. I just love how blatant it is. It's just like, look, make your character more interesting. We'll give you good stuff. Just please make your character more interesting.
Yeah. And to say, if you are a compulsive optimizer like I am, and the idea of taking those flaws is like, I'm not taking extra damage from robots.
Right.
You don't have to. The flaws are a totally optional thing.
Yeah, for sure. And they definitely pushed another one of those signs that maybe the game's going to be shorter than you'd expect or than most RPGs out there is them pushing the idea of like, it's going to be very replayable. Yeah. You'll want to replay this and choose different options, have different flaws, different skill sets, all that stuff.
There's a bunch of difficulty settings as well. And as you go up in difficulty setting, you can take more flaws.
Which, the idea of that is like, because it's like on a normal playthrough, you can have 3 flaws. If you're on hard, you can have 4. And if you're on the hardest, which I think they're calling supernova, you can take 5 flaws because you get those 5 extra perks.
Right.
But imagine playing like the super hardcore difficulty where you're just taking all kinds of extra damage.
Or your stats are always lowered every time you're encountering a particular enemy type. Like, I think it's a unique way to approach difficulty, and I think people will hopefully embrace that.
Yeah, I think so. It's also an interesting trip and an interesting time for Obsidian overall, because it was very bizarre to be at this now Microsoft-owned studio, but there was no Microsoft representation around. There's no PR person from Microsoft there. It was a bizarre environment, right? It felt like from Microsoft? No. There's no Microsoft employee there.
Okay.
Well, I guess they're all technically Microsoft employees.
There were some Microsoft people around, but not in any way that was like getting in the way of our work or pausing conversations or anything like that.
It was just a very refreshing time, I think, to see Fergus in particular, who we've worked with before, he's been on the podcast before, the CEO of the company, just kind of understanding the new realm. And it seems like in this phase, at least from, our 2 days at the studio, that Microsoft was pretty hands off, letting them do what they wanted, which is very nice. It was just nice to talk to Fergus. We're going to have an interview with him later in the month here, just talking about like, hey, getting out of the rat race of trying to survive as a big indie studio and how difficult that can be. Just to, hey, it seems like we can trust Microsoft now. This seems to be a net positive for everybody. Let's go for it.
Yeah, I am hopeful that turns out well for them. I mean, the conversations with Fergus made it clear to me, certainly, that the task of running a big independent studio like they have been doing for a long time now, it is increasingly with each passing year more devastatingly complex to do.
Right.
There are reasons why there are so many studios that have made the choice to, work with a larger publisher, as they now have with Microsoft, because it's just hard to stay afloat, even when you make really strong games, as I think by and large Obsidian has made good games.
Right. But now it's that weird thing where there's still so many people confused or speculating about what is going on with the Outer Worlds. Is it an Xbox exclusive, which it is not.
No.
So they were working on this game for years before the Microsoft acquisition came by, and in theory, it's not going to be affected by that.
The messaging we received, unless there's something there just explicitly not telling us, is that this is a private division game. It's moving forward. Everything's great. There's no hard feelings. Microsoft isn't pissed about it. They're happy because they have a studio that is making a game that people are excited about, and ultimately at the end of the day, that's probably good for Microsoft if they release a game that does well.
So when they make a new Microsoft IP, they can say, from the creators of the Outer Worlds, like they want this to succeed.
I think they do. I think there might be some conspiracy theory out there that there's bad feelings there or something, and we didn't get any sense of that.
No. One of the big mysteries, which is still bizarre, is trying to figure out, like, one of the things Fergus wouldn't talk about is, hey, if you guys ever make an Outer Worlds 2, which, by the way, Tim and Leonard talk a lot about Outer Worlds 2 and how much they want to make it.
They really have some thought. Yeah. Like, normally, I mean, a little background is like, normally when we go on trips like that, we always ask about, like, hey, like, what are your plans for this? Like, if this is successful, is there a sequel in the works or an expansion?
Or there's
a
one-off joke about, like, we'll save this for the sequel.
Yeah, things like that. But normally the answer to that, I mean, there's a very scripted sort of response that we get most of the time, which is, if people love the game, that would be great, and we'd be interested in exploring that. But really, right now, we are laser focused on making this game the best it can be.
Or just a straight up no comment.
Yeah, or that. But yeah, this was unusual in that. I'm not saying that they like totally spilled the beans, but they were very open about like, oh yeah, we'd love to do another one. We have ideas for another one, and yeah.
Yeah, for sure. But anyways, Fergus wouldn't talk about who would technically own the Outer Worlds 2, and that's where it gets into that weird thing, which, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think with Private Division, the developer still owns the IP. And so at that point, they would own the Outer Worlds, and then if Microsoft owns them, in theory, it might transition.
I'll be honest, I really don't know how that dynamic would work, and I wouldn't purport to try to explain it. I think it's enough to know that the game that has been announced, The Outer Worlds, is coming out. It is being published by Private Division.
Right.
It is multi-platform.
And it is absolutely coming out on PC, on Xbox, and on PS4.
Yeah, and as far as, hey, is it going to come out on Steam or just the Microsoft Store? I would imagine Steam. But if you want to learn maybe some answers to the gameplay overall or the business of Obsidian and how all this stuff's going down, at the end of the month, we're going to Skype in, hopefully, Tim and Leonard. So we'll send out a call on gameformer.com, and you can leave a comment or a question there, and then we'll ask them the ones that seem answerable at this point without spoiling anything about the game. So that's coming up at the end of the month.
Yeah.
Exciting times. Let's see, what else?
Well, I think that one of the other things that we touched on with the leadership thing is that there's companions here, and I think that's something that I often, when I hear about it in a game, I get excited about. You are going to have your own ship that serves as a sort of a base, right? And your companions will wait in the ship, and you'll be able to go have conversations with them. It reminds me of something like Mass Effect or KOTOR in that regard.
The companions also have like specific quests that you go on for them that then enhance their unique like combat special move and stuff like that.
Right.
So that's a cool thing. I think that they have they've been pretty open about the fact that there's not going to be like spaceship combat or anything like that, and there's not going to be gameplay related ways that you're customizing your ship, but that you are going to be able to change some things about the interior, right? You'll have your own like captain's room, and as you get collectibles throughout the game world, those will go into your room. Your allies, your companions also have their own rooms, and as you complete their quests, those get populated with new stuff, and that changes the decor, which is kind of fun.
Can't romance your companions. We've talked about
They've
before.
been pretty clear about
As
that.
they say repeatedly, time and budget, time and budget, time and budget.
Yeah, and I want to say something about that too, because they don't say time and budget like, oh, our hands are tied, or yeah, we're not really making a good game because we don't have the time or money for it.
Yeah, they didn't say that, believe it or not.
No. Well, no, but I mean, when you say time and budget, I think to a lot of people that comes out saying like, we are limited, we are restricted, and I think that's true, but not necessarily in a way that is like, well, this game isn't as good as it could be or should be.
It's a choice that they've made about where they want to put their focus.
Yeah.
I think they are being, again, refreshingly honest. There are lots of times that we see early looks at games, and there's so much hyperbole, and there's so much like talking about systems that, well, this is just one example of the way things are going to be, but it really is the only example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that happens all the time when we go and see early looks at stuff. And I was very pleased that when we sat down with almost everybody we talked to at Obsidian, that they just said, we're trying to make the best game that we can, and we know that it's a first game in a franchise that we'd love for it to go on past this, but right now we're focused on that, and this is what we can do. And sure, I mean, you can make the argument, well, they could have prioritized romances or some other thing that you want in the game, but they didn't. They said there were other things like being able to have multiple difficulty settings, maybe, or having as many choices in the dialogues, or having different companions be present, right? Those are all things that they wanted to be able to do, and that's where they put their focus, and they were open about that stuff.
Yeah, and they're
us.
very humble about like, we hope we can stick the landing. A lot of things, it's tough development.
Yeah.
Games are always tough to make, but it's going in the rightish direction here.
Yeah, and I guess that's mainly why I wanted to bring it up, I guess, is because I appreciate the fact that they are not over-promising in some way here, or trying to put a spin on something that feels like a misstep. Like anytime they couldn't do something or didn't do something the way that you might expect, it's always like, yeah, we thought about that, but we decided to focus on something else instead.
Right.
And I would say one of the other things we haven't talked about is just the combat itself, which is a pretty core aspect of gameplay. I thought it looked good, like this isn't, they're not going for a Destiny or Call of Duty here, right? But it does have a lot of interesting things about it. You've got this sort of tactical time delay thing, or dilation, I think is what they call, which is a lot like
VATS.
that.
Yeah, very different.
It's not exactly that.
So it slows things down, and what I like about it, it's a little bit like Super Hot or something, right? Where you can look around and you can plan out what you want to do exactly, and it won't deplete your meter. But
or
if you
deplete slower.
Right, but if you make any sort of action, then that will deplete your slow-mo meter more. So it effectively is close enough to VATS.
And you have options, you can pursue melee, range. There's multiple categories of like long guns or handguns, heavy melee or light melees.
And these are all things that you invest skill points in.
Yep.
So if you invest more in melee weapons, you do more damage that way. At certain like thresholds along the progression for those skills, you get certain like perks and bonuses too. So
and that in turn leads to maybe one of my favorite aspects of the game, which we are going to talk about more later in the month, which is the science weapons, which are super fun.
Shrink ray is the one that they really...
ray is the one that we got a chance to look at really closely. But they implied to us that there's going to be a science weapon for each category of weapon that you could get. So there'll be like a long gun science weapon, and there'll be a light melee science weapon.
There was one, we didn't get to see it, and they wouldn't elaborate on it, but it had the code name the Ugly Stick or something.
One of the
right?
melee ones. So
That's right.
The idea behind the science weapons is that they're all unique, one of a kind things that you find in the world, and they break the rules, right? Like Obsidian has been very careful to create very clear rules about the way physics work in their game world and the way science works and all that kind of stuff. And the science weapons are the one thing that doesn't pay attention to that and just can do whatever they want. And they've used that to just have each one of them be very strange things. Often things they've said that show up as bugs first in the game, and they're like, that's hilarious. Yeah.
And
so we're going to put it in the game as a science weapon.
And not necessarily overpowered either, just strange.
So like the Shrink Ray takes advantage of a thing that they figured out, that they have scaling for their enemies. And so they were
because there's like mega fauna every once in a while where it's like this version of an enemy you've seen before, but now it's going to be big.
And so they were like, well, why don't we just make a weapon that takes advantage of that and makes everything teensy tiny? And it gets tinier as your science skill goes up. And so you have this all of a sudden this reason to focus on science as being, again, in a science fiction sort of pulpy game, so that you can use your crazy Shrink Ray gun better than somebody who doesn't have that, which is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Hey, GameInformer.com/The Outer Worlds, an entire month of content. Some new exclusive gameplay that'll be going up, I think, early next week, but just a lot of info. Like, one I'm looking forward to is talking about, I think, Joe, are you writing this one about the locations?
I think I'm writing up things about just kind of talking about the setting a little bit more. Obviously, our magazine article that is available now digitally and is going out to print subscribers over the next couple of weeks here. That touches on all the stuff we're talking about today and goes into a little bit more detail about all these subjects and offers an overview of what our experience was. And then every one of the features that we're doing this month drills down into a particular thing. So we're looking at science weapons and the Shrink Ray. We're looking more at, talking more with Leonard and Tim about the tone of the game. We're talking to Fergus about what's going on with Obsidian. So there's a bunch of things that if people, whether you're an enthusiast for the work that Obsidian has done, or you just are really excited about what you've heard of the Outer Worlds, I think there's some cool stuff we've got coming up.
Yeah, super cool. GameInformer.com/Outer Worlds. Woo! For now, do you guys want to clap out so we can talk about some cool Battle Royale games?
You got it.
1, 2, 3.
Hey! We got the Apex Legends here. It's a squad of 3. We've got Dantek.
Hey.
JV Gwaltney.
Hi, guys.
And Matt Burtz.
What's up?
The Shooter Squad. So, JV, when was this? Last week you went to Respawn secretly to play this new Battle Royale?
I think it was technically last week. It feels like 3 months ago, but it was last week.
And they invited everybody in the world there based on the amount that it leaked over the weekend?
I didn't think it leaked until I got back. Like, the day I got back, I had pre-written a bunch of stories. I looked online and was like, oh, yeah, the leaks are coming in.
Perfect. Okay, so this is Apex Legends, the creators of Titanfall's new Battle Royale, technically within the Titanfall universe. But, who's counting, really? Yeah. We've all played a fair amount of it, but JV, did you have a big takeaway or impression from visiting the studio?
No, because it wasn't at the studio. We didn't go to the studio.
Oh.
Yeah, it was offsite.
Oh, well, forget this.
I mean, there were a bunch of developers there, but I wasn't inside the studio. I haven't been to the studio since we went and saw Titanfall 2 at a preview event.
Okay.
So that's cool. Like, their studio is cool. I just haven't been in, like, 2 years.
Yeah, it seemed like the most interesting discussion. Before we get to the game, because there's a lot of interesting things about the game as well, but just talking about the state of Respawn, what this means for, in theory, a Titanfall 3. You had some interesting quotes from Drew McCoy, the producer. Yep. What did he say to you about what this means for the future of Titanfall?
The way he presented it to me was they were not interested in talking about Titanfall 3 until they talked to Eurogamer about it and said, oh yeah, Titanfall 3 isn't in development. But he talked a lot about, like, oh, this universe is ripe for more kinds of Titanfall games. You know, whatever that means. So more games in the Titanfall universe, but it doesn't sound like any of them on the plate are Titanfall 3 in the sense that, like, this is a proper successor to Titanfall 2.
Yeah, maybe more offshoots. And it's weird.
Well, they have a VR game, right? That's supposed to come out this year.
Oh, Respawn, and they haven't associated with a certain thing. So that's the obvious thing then, right? Is just Titanfall VR?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, that's going to be a bummer. But they have done more offshoots than you remember. I completely forgot that, 2 years ago, they had that iOS Titanfall game, Titanfall Assault or whatever it was called.
Clash Royale.
The Clash Royale clone, yeah, it's weird like that. And then Vincent Pella, even the co-founder there on Twitter, he was talking about, like, it's a different type of experience, trying to cush it in a strange way.
Yeah.
But
But that's how they operate, you know, like they aren't really as EA-driven as, like, a lot of people think, where oh, we're coming off of this project and we're going to this one that's already been predetermined. They are really into sitting down and playing with gameplay elements and figuring out what's fun and then trying to build around that.
Yeah, one of the quotes that Drew said during our interview was, our process is that we find the fun and go from there. So it's not necessarily like we want to do a sequel. It's we just test and test and test and test until something's fun and it's balanced.
Well, the crazy thing to me is, I pulled your quote here, is how much in this press run for Apex Legends, it seems like Respawn is almost like distancing themselves from EA.
Oh,
in
yeah.
a
Oh,
way.
absolutely.
It's
EA is toxic.
I know, but it's just fascinating. Okay, for example, let's start with this one. For Eurogamer, I think it was Drew doing this quote. I forget. If
Yeah,
it-
it's true.
It's always true. Okay. He said, hey, we were doing a free-to-play game with essentially loot boxes after we were just bought by EA, and it's not Titanfall 3. It's the perfect recipe for a marketing plan to go awry. So why have that? Let's just ship the game and let players play, which I think is a brilliant move.
Yeah.
He's totally right.
Yeah.
It's so smart that they saw the trouble on the horizon. But then in your interview with Drew, JV here, he said, I had to go to executives at EA and show it to them and explain Apex Legends, but not convince them, but more just say, hey, trust us. This is the thing you want out of us.
Mm-hmm.
Which is weird because the easy thing is just thinking that EA said, hey, make a battle royale, go make it free to play. But it's, at least in this storyline, it seems like they very much wanted to do this.
I mean, that's the Reddit narrative. When we got there, they spent the whole first hour in a presentation talking to us about we wanted to make this game. EA had nothing to do with this.
Had nothing to do with
nothing
it.
to do with. I think the exact quote he gave me in our one-on-one interview was EA had no hand in the development of this game.
I don't understand this. So in theory, could it have been something other than a Titanfall game the entire time? Because doesn't EA own the rights to Titanfall? So if it started out development, they must have had some hand in the discussion about it early on.
Well, I think when they're speaking in this sense, it's creatively as opposed to, EA certainly is in meetings and learning about the game and recommending marketing approaches. That's the publisher relationship to the developer that they own. But, we've seen it throughout history. Any studio that Vince Zampella runs is fiercely independent, and they aren't afraid to stand up to whatever publisher they're working with, and they will fight for the things they believe in.
Right. And so this is, with the creation of Call of Duty and then that whole fiasco and lawsuit as they split off and then formed Respawn originally.
Yeah, and even before that, when they were originally with EA working on Medal of Honor and breaking off to create Infinity Ward, he will leave if he is not happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It just gets so bizarre to think about the game industry and just zoom out a little bit and thinking about the Battle Royale explosion and just the idea that Call of Duty's roped into this thing now that's kind of spawned out of Arma, and now the original Call of Duty creators who broke off, now they're getting sucked into this vortex.
Battlefield sitting there on the sidelines
What
saying
the
they're going
hell?
to do one. I
They'll
don't know.
get to it eventually.
Yeah,
Criterion over there is going to develop it, or whatever the hell's going on. It's just bizarre to see so many studios, and especially these two recently now with Titanfall 3, that game maybe being shelved a little bit or reworked into Apex Legends. Not quite sure how that relationship worked. But then also thinking about Black Ops 4, our best buddy game, Dan.
Yeah.
And that game, let's scrap the single-player co-op-y type thing and go Battle Royale. It's just weird that both EA and Activision have just had hard pivots to make really good Battle Royale games now.
It's hot. Obviously, it's making a ton of money throughout the entire industry, and these are big companies that want to make a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And you know what? They're fun. They're freaking fun.
And
so
yes,
I don't
absolutely.
blame people who, all these developers don't work in vacuums. They're playing these games and they think it's fun too. And, I kind of view Apex Legends as like a Blizzard Royale. And I mean that in the best possible sense of they are honing in and streamlining things that are a little bit problematic for other Battle Royale games, and they've just made it a little bit better. They're tweaking it here and there.
Yeah.
It's got the hero approach,
I think it's such a smart play to be the first in this ilk that's completely free to play. Like the production of this game is very, very impressive, right? And just that you see this game and realize that they are making such a good imprint in that marketplace for hey, if you want, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, but at least a good AAA-ish type of Battle Royale.
I don't want to, but you don't consider Fortnite?
No, I'm talking more realistic graphics, I suppose, is the distinction there, right? If people want a more mature Battle Royale, they're turned off by Fortnite. I think it's overwhelmed by 11-year-olds. This is a great option. Whereas
One's
Blackout...
first person and one's third, too. Yeah.
Right,
No,
right.
I'm saying that. More
Yeah.
people want that sort of thing.
Yeah, because I think
Right, I was just addressing the free-to-play aspect
Right,
of what you
yes.
said.
I should have said the more realistic approach. But I think on the Blackout trip, we were also red hot on that game from the cover story trip, and we all still love the game in general.
Certainly.
But I don't feel like it has broken through to the extent that I expected.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think post-launch support has been as extensive as we were hoping. For
Yeah.
one thing, that's been one aspect of it. It's got patches, it's gotten extra stuff. But not the same level that a AAA free-to-play, roller coaster of content updates is going to be like.
Exactly. And I feel like if Blackout would have gone free to play first, maybe it had a chance at just getting this huge section of the market that in theory now Apex Legends is grabbing.
Well, it's hot out the gates.
Yeah.
Hot out of the gates. Okay, let's get into the gameplay here. JV, what do you like about it?
I mean, first of all, I know there's been a lot of reaction around, oh, there are no Titans, so there are no Titan mech robo things in this game. There are no pilots, so you're not doing parkour. You're not doing wall running, but even outside of those elements, just moving around in a respawn game, like the active moving feels so different compared to other first-person shooters.
You slide for 45 feet.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just faster, like even just general movement without sliding. Like it just feels nice and breezy, and I really like the gunplay too. So just on the basic sort of, the bare bones stuff feels really good. Like it's just, it just feels good to play. I feel like the powers, the character-driven powers inspired by stuff like Overwatch feel really nice too, and they all complement one another. So you have like Bangalore, who's basically the Soldier 76 of this, roster.
Right.
Her power is she has like a smoke bomb missile that she can fire, and the rocket explodes and covers like an entire field in smoke. And that's great for like setting up ambushes or like reviving your partner, like creating a distraction to revive your partner and stuff. And all these characters just have all these sorts of abilities that sort of interlock together.
And they push you to use it like faster than I expected. It's one of those things where it's like, oh my God, I should just be spamming.
I was saving it at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, just let that L1, at least on the console thing, just fly as often as possible.
Yep.
Like, if Trailblazer, is that the robot's name?
Pathfinder.
Pathfinder. Just like using his grappling hook as much as possible. Like, there's no reason not to. That cooldown is so quick.
Yeah.
By the way, I should say Leo has been playing a lot in the booth too, so please chime in at any point here, Leo.
Thank you. I was clearing my throat, but that wasn't to get involved here.
Okay. Well, you have the floor, sir. No, you don't. Dantech, what do you think
sir.
about this as Mr. Battle Royale?
So I love a lot of things about this game. For one, the most obvious thing that's noticeable immediately as someone who plays a ton of battle royales is how easy it is to communicate important things.
Yes.
Yeah.
And how well it does that through the UI. And I'm not just talking about enemy here, let's go here, some stuff here, tier 3 helmet here. That's all very important. But also just other small and subtle things like color-coded death boxes.
Yep.
So you know exactly which one you should hit first since it's yellow, right? That's got the really good stuff in there. Hit that one first and then go to the gray and the blue boxes. Or even if you're on the run and you've only got a chance to loot one box before the circle's closing in, you go for the high tier box.
And even having the color-coded loot, not for rarity, but just for ammo types, that's so helpful for trying to
really
learn
is.
stuff out
It
of the way.
is.
But the ping system, I do think, is
Ping
brilliant.
system's amazing.
Having it be adaptive, where if you ping an item, then all your buddies will know exactly where it is. Getting it to just like double tap it to change from, hey, we should go over here to, hey, there's an enemy over here.
Yeah.
Like that subtle difference is so key.
It makes a big difference. And when you're like, on PUBG and Blackout, it's like, hey, there's a tier 3 armor here. Come get
and
it.
then
And they're
you
like,
have
where's
to go on a
here?
scavenger hunt.
Where's here?
well,
It's in the house.
you can set it, and you can notify people in Blackout.
You can put a marker, but if it's
Yeah.
a multi-layered house, you don't really know,
You
right?
can see it through
You're
the floors. It has like the teal look to
it's
it.
not quite this. It's not the same.
It's not as
I play
good.
with the same guys, and it's just
Right.
like it's so much more fluid here in this situation.
Yeah, I think that's probably my favorite thing, even more than the powers, is the ping system. Because as someone who's always kind of shied away from other battle royale, like I've played squads and duos before, but I don't really like doing it with random people.
Yeah.
This is the first like squad-based battle royale that I play with random people, and because of the ping system, I feel okay. Like I can depend on these people. We can communicate without having to deal with each other's probably obnoxious personalities. Sorry,
For
I mean
yourself.
I don't like to talk to strangers in a multiplayer game. It's just I like doing that with friends, but
Yeah. And the jump man thing is
Yeah, the
great
jump
too.
master.
Jump master, yeah.
Yeah.
Just being able to like have one guy in
Yep.
control of it at the beginning or gal, and you can break off if you want to, but if someone's AFK because they're going to the bathroom or getting a
Right.
soda, like you're all
You're
going
landing
to
in the same place.
spot.
It's so
Yeah.
nice.
It
It
is-
solves so many problems.
It is nice. I love that now we just have to get used to the word jump master as a battle royale thing, but it is a very smart idea. Even if on base PS4 at least, it looks so janky during that phase.
And just the last thing about the ping system, it's
Yeah.
just like compared to other games where we have to sit there and say 355 behind the tree
Yes.
by the wheelbarrow. No, it just tells you he's right there.
Right.
That's where he is.
And another thing about the ping system.
yes, Leo.
You can go in the inventory, go to, say, your sniper that doesn't have a sight on it, and just click the little sight thing, and it'll say, looking for optics for a sniper rifle.
Oh, I haven't done that yet.
Voicelessly, it'll do that for your teammates. It's amazing. It's so smart.
Oh, that's really
I
handy.
also
yeah.
really like that there's like just an automatic thank you option whenever someone gives
Yep.
you something, so you don't have to
Right.
like dig around for it. You're like, oh yes, thank you.
Right. Or just being able to hot swap all your attachments onto your new gun,
Yeah.
stuff
Yep.
like that.
Yes,
so
without having to throw them all on the floor and
Yep.
then pick
Yeah.
them all back up and see.
And
which
that's
ones
what I
fit.
mean by Blizzard Royale. Like
Yeah.
these are things that you see Blizzard do with genres that they're moving into. They always
Absolutely.
simplify and streamline and just improve.
Which I think Blackout did in a number of ways
Yeah,
from
for sure.
PUBG. But I mean, talking to Treyarch, we got the sense, especially in the Answering Lingering Questions Game Former podcast with Vonderhaar, but just talking about like that controller is just being overwhelmed, and it's
Sure.
so difficult with Blackout to like, okay, how can we make the inventory system better on consoles in particular? And I feel like just the small tweaks for Apex Legends, it's so smart, and it's like, God, how can we get that ping system into Blackout now? How could they possibly map that onto that sucker?
Yeah, that's
Makes a
been
huge
kind of
difference.
my growing. That's kind of the impression I've had while I've been playing it. I've got like 15 plus hours of just doing that constantly. Is that it's going to be hard to go back to any other battle royale because of like those features aren't in there. Like I really want the ping system in Blackout. I really want the jump master system in Blackout. That sort of thing. Like I really like these streamlined features even more than the character powers, which are still really cool.
Yeah. I was actually jumping back and forth the last couple nights between Apex Legends and Blackout. I still prefer Blackout by a mile. If I don't know if it's just all I want from battle royale games is the adventure, and I feel like having more open spaces with
Yeah.
the vehicles in particular, more downtime, which seems crazy because Blackout is already so fast, but it just feels more my speed.
I
than
do
Apex
miss
Legends.
that. I do miss that in this game. Like the map is my least favorite part of the game.
Yeah, it's
I'll
not
say
great.
that. For all the stuff I love about the game, which is a lot, the map is one of the two things I think I'd call out as not being the best.
It's an aesthetic bummer.
It is.
Like it's just all apartment buildings and swamplands and military bases, and that's it.
Mud and
Like, it's-
just burned down trees.
Yeah.
And it's just
That's like the most notable spot on the map. Is like, oh, cool, a scorched forest. Why isn't there more variety like this?
It's cool
Yeah.
that they tell you, like, there's X tier loot is
That's
in this
great.
area, but honestly, I can't tell the difference between like Slum Village and Skull Village, and it's just like where it's wherever
Yeah.
you're fighting.
Yeah.
Right.
I do like though that I feel compared to other games, I think it might be a combination of the movement and how hilly and how many interiors there are that you can hide, that a sniper's not going to dominate this game. Like I feel like when you get to the end of Blackout, so much of the map is just flatlands, especially if you're in the desert area. It's just whoever's got a sniper rifle and who can ever fire, with true, decent aim is going to win that.
Yeah, a little bit. It definitely seems like they're emphasizing optics less. Maybe just haven't played enough. But compared to like the average optics pickup in like Blackout compared to Apex Legends, I mean, there's a lot of games where
I think
just don't
there are
get any
a
attachments.
lot more flanking opportunities in this
Yeah.
game than
Yeah,
there are
for
in the
sure.
other BRs. Because if you try to assault a sniper roost in another game, you're going down. You're just going to die, and
Right,
your
right.
your teammates are going to laugh at you, and it's going to be terrible. But through the combination of abilities and other things, you can get behind the opposing team much easier in this and sort of like attack them while your other guys are taking the
And then you can down them and do your fatality, which I learned
I
last
love the
night does not
fatality.
make you invincible.
That's
And
a-
it's
It
really,
does
you
not.
got to make sure you're by yourself
It's
before
such
you go
a
for
small,
that.
subtle thing, but I really love the fatalities. Too much, in fact. I will often put myself at huge risk in order to get the fatality.
But it's a smart way. Just go ahead, Leo.
Same.
Oh yeah.
You may
fun.
proceed.
No, it's a smart way just to remind you of what your character looks like, which this game does a lot to try and push you towards cosmetic purchases, which it's incredibly generous about to begin with.
Yeah.
But then also the smart thing is having characters on the banners, right? Just putting the character front and center in this first-person game as much as possible is a really smart move.
It's
overall.
cool seeing the champion banners too, because when you've won
Yeah.
your last round and then you're featured up on those banners in the world.
What's
Yeah.
that like?
You get extra XP.
It's really good.
It's pretty nice. And you know what? I don't think you actually need to win. Because we were second place one time, and we were still
And
the
you were
champions
still the champion
for the next
because
one.
you
Because
were
I
the-
guess there was no other team that had won that was coming in.
Interesting.
Okay.
That's my assumption.
I love the little thing too of them just letting you know when the champion has died.
Yeah.
It's great.
Although I don't like that they double it because like the announcer says it and then I don't like that your character says it. I feel like those character lines I could go for about half of those.
There's a lot of great content. The character lines and the sound I think are great. Like it feels
Yeah?
really crunchy when you nail somebody in the head with a sniper rifle. Like
And then he says a little quip.
yeah, the quips are cool. The quips are
Quips
cool.
are cool.
I don't know if the
Okay.
characters saying the quips are cool. That was my other thing, other than the maps. Like
I think there is such an impressive amount of character work in this game, and all the subtle world building ways where you're, putting your own personality onto it or whatever.
well, you got to put your own personality into it because they don't have much, in my opinion.
Well,
But
the robot is happy.
there's no
What do you want?
Tachanka here. Like that's the
Okay.
good thing. Like there is no like
that's true.
there's no awful character. They're all semi-useful. You'll obviously gravitate to the ones you like, but they started with a small group, and I feel like you can already see like natural counters are going to be able to design around.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, it's weird. It's just there's so much room to expand with characters here, but
Yeah.
it's weird for characters like, oh god, spooky guy in the upper left, whatever his name is.
Caustic?
No.
Bloodhound.
Oh, Bloodhound.
Thank you,
Bloodhound,
Bloodhound.
yeah.
Yeah, where it's like he can detect traps.
Yeah, he's
And it's
great.
like, well, wait a minute. Like,
I
how
love
many
him.
traps are even available?
He is part of
No,
my.
but traps as well.
He's the core 3, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love that guy.
really?
Yeah.
Really?
Well, like after 2 days of gameplay, yes, I've
Like
got
getting to detect enemies, I totally get, but like that traps thing was just that one thing.
the
like,
enemy
oh, they're
detection
going to add so
is
many
so
more funky
incredible. Like
characters here.
his ultimate in the final circle is unbelievably. It's game winning.
Really?
Almost every time, in my opinion.
Okay.
Combined with the other 2 best characters,
Which is the medic?
which is Lifeline. I think is
Lifeline,
actually
yeah.
the best character in the whole game.
Yes.
Like no contest. And then after that, you got Gibraltar.
Oh, really?
tank. You got-
Oh, really?
That in
Gibraltar.
sniper battles, that free shield that he gets can make a big difference.
Okay.
I don't like Lifeline's medic power. I don't like that it's a stationary thing you got to go walk to. Like, I feel like to fit into I was talking to JV about this. It would have been so much more interesting to me if it was like a little hover bot that is actually, you can shoot it down if you're on the offensive and you're seeing it go over to somebody. Like
Yeah.
having to go walk and stand by something doesn't
I
seem
failed to
very
revive you
futuristic.
one time.
Yeah.
I feel like if that thing followed you around, it would just be way too strong.
Yeah, I agree.
Yes.
And it's got a little bit of a tether. It's got some range to it. So you can kind of plant it if you're planning on holding out this little area a little bit. So I feel like it kind of gets that middle ground a little bit. But
The real key to her so far for me has been just you stack all of the accelerants on her to get the ultimate faster, and those
Okay.
get those drops down as soon as possible because they've
Yeah.
got purple armor in it every time, and it's just
Right.
like that's a huge edge in a close fight.
I really like that you can use that as bait too.
oh yeah,
I like
you
that,
definitely
totally.
can.
Yes,
you definitely
it's so
can.
good. Like just get Caustic or Wraith in there, and just
And you
lay
set
a
up on
trap
it?
or like ambush them. It's so fun.
It is
Yeah.
very good.
Dan, how's it stack up against Blackout in your mind?
It's 2 days in. It's,
I know,
It's
so
almost
make the call.
impossible. I'm as a squad-driven battle royale player, which I am, because
Yeah.
I never play solo, right? So as somebody, this game is like inherently squad-based, which is great for me. The few times I've played solo, I don't think it stacks up. I think you've got to have this. I think you've got to have 2 friends to do this. I've won games with pubs, but like the other games I had with pubs were nightmares. People break off and run away, or just scream into the mic.
The second they
insanely.
break away from the jump master,
Right.
it's like, oh boy,
It's
we're
like,
gonna
well,
have one of
we're
these.
behind
Okay.
or they leave after you've got their banner and you've been heading to the respawn point to try to get
Yeah.
up there. There's like, I've
That's
had
the
enough
biggest
fun
problem
here.
right now.
Bye.
People bounce so fast after they're dead, and it's
So
like,
I think if you've got a dedicated 2 others to play with, it's definitely in competition. I've been having a blast. Absolutely. It's the new game right now.
Yeah.
It's hot right now. We're in the honeymoon stage.
Right.
Let's see how that pans out. But
Yeah.
right now, it's my go-to battle royale.
We should talk about that recovery thing a little bit. It's very bizarre. In their debut video, Drew McCoy, the producer, says, "We couldn't make a battle royale that doesn't have respawning. It just doesn't make sense."
Because they're respawn,
Yeah.
right?
I guess I don't know if they're going for that necessarily, but just design-wise, it is a weird learning curve to get used to. Okay, I need to go pick up this tag, then bring it to that thing over there, and then they'll come in with absolutely nothing.
Yes.
Just a pistol will be nice. In that like down but not out mode in Blackout, you got a
Right.
pistol at least.
And
I
think-
kind of like that though.
Yeah,
I do like
too.
it.
Yeah?
I do like it because it gives you some incentive to stick around. You're doing other than just like, especially if your teammate's going to go all the way, right?
Yeah.
At least there's a chance you can get back in. And there's still pressure because they can't grab that banner anytime. Like they've got a clock where they've got to get to your body before it runs out. And, you're
And
dead
then
for
it's a
good.
long 5 seconds of someone holding down a button when a sniper might be able to take them out or something while they're respawning you.
It's weird to get towards the end of a game, and it's for the players left, it's just a question mark. And I assume
Oh,
that's a
yes.
factor of...
They don't want you to know how many people are
It's
exactly
super
remaining.
tense.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah. I ended up liking that because I remember seeing that at the preview event and going, oh, that's interesting. And then like 3 matches in, we got down to like 2 squads. And it was like, how many of them are there left? Is it just 1 guy? Is
Right.
it 3?
Yeah.
How screwed am I? You know, it's real good.
Right. I won my first Battle Royale game in this game, Apex Legends, of course. And if it's only 60 players, so
It
maybe
is.
it's not that impactful overall. Are you happy with the amount of players?
I am right now.
I think it could use like 10 more. Because
Okay.
I think there's a lull period. When you drop, there's a lot of hotness. And then typically in a game, we get some downtime in the middle where we're just looting, a lot of looting.
Yeah.
And then we end up fighting several other similarly geared teams in a major area once it pushes us there. And we're hungry too. We don't like sit back. We're not like,
dogs gotta
we're
eat.
not like, hey, let's like hang out on the edge of the circle. We're like, let's go find the action. Let's go to the drops. Those cool little ships that fly around. Like,
Those things are
yeah.
wild. I landed on one accidentally. I'm like, what is this? I'm fighting other people
Like,
up here?
if you're really hungry, you drop right onto that thing.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
like the hottest drop there is, right?
It's fun,
And it's
yeah.
not that intelligent because the loot on there is not worth it.
It's fun though.
It is.
It's one of the weird things Bert and I noticed when we were playing, I think last night, is it feels like the loot algorithms are kind of off sometimes because we
Yeah.
landed in one area and it said it was like high tier stuff and it was just auto shotguns. Literally
just like
every
4
item
shotgun.
was an auto shotgun. So I hope they kind of fix that a little bit.
Yeah. I
Because
feel
I
like
feel like
every-
Blackout, that for me so far, that's like one of the few areas where Blackout just dominates this game in terms of like if I drop into an area, I know at least like usually there'll be a gun, there'll be like armor or a grenade or something. Like I'll have a combination of items I can use instead of just it's just all guns. It's just all of the same gun.
I'll take 3 Mozambique shotguns.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Yeah.
Let's
those
keep
are
this
those are
rolling.
tricky.
Or we have like 3 pistols that we find, and it's like, can there be 3 different weapons in this area?
Yeah.
Okay, but nailing someone with the Mozambique is really good.
Look,
is.
I love
Yeah.
shooting that gun. It looks very
all
cool.
3
yeah.
shots. You better land them all.
Yeah, exactly.
The one thing I really do like is that they have the concept of like ultra loot, which you're not going to see. You're going to see it
Yeah.
like every 20 games maybe.
Perk loot, yeah.
But
What
the,
is this?
but
I
the
haven't seen
level,
this yet, I don't
the
think.
yellow tier
Golds.
loot, yeah.
Oh, okay.
The gold loot, and they all have like special effects that none of the other items do. Like with the knockdown shield, the
Yeah.
yellow knockdown shield, you can actually self-res yourself.
Yeah, the backpack makes you feel or heal like twice as fast. That sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
it's basically a purple with a perk on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I got a gold sniper scope that was 6 times and had a threat indicator on it.
Yes.
So you could be looking over this huge field and see people highlighted clearly in red.
That's
Oh my
beautiful.
God.
Like the squad was trying to lose us through that scorched forest we were talking about, and they couldn't because I could track them so well with that scope.
That's nuts.
I had the
That's
yellow
awesome.
shotgun once. It was brutal, man. I was just like, it hurts people.
The Mastiff?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are also like legendary attachments that aren't optics or barrels that affect the guns. Like there's one for the Peacekeeper, which is like that 6-barrel shotgun
The Peacekeeper is amazing.
that will
Yeah, I
like
love that.
close all your shots and basically turn that gun into a rifle
Yeah.
instead of a shotgun spread, and it's just devastating. Like you hit them with one hit and they're dead unless they're wearing purple armor.
Right, right. Leo, do you think you like this game more than Blackout at this point?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising.
To,
Is
to
it-
say, I didn't play a ton of Blackout. To say something reductive about
Please.
it,
Please do.
it's, a very polished PUBG in a lot of the fundamental ways of vehicles and shooting and the parachuting. It feels a lot like PUBG, but tighter, obviously. But this feels like the first actual step forward for Battle Royale that I've seen. Like, I thought I was tired of Battle Royale, but I think I just wanted someone to fix all of the problems I had with it.
Bert's, what's crazy is I feel like you kind of cooled on Blackout because you're like, it's just, I'm
Yeah.
sick of the Battle Royale genre already.
No, it just felt too similar. It just felt
Yeah.
like, a AAA version of it's like the templates right there. We're just going to take it. At least Fortnite had the building, like it felt different.
Yeah.
Something about that just pissed me off.
But Apex Legends, it feels different enough for
It
you?
feels different enough.
That's interesting. And JV, you're working on the review.
Yeah, I'm working on the review.
Okay, maybe at some point this week?
Yeah, that's the idea, is to have it out before this week's done.
Okay.
So we'll see.
Can I tell a story of my favorite moment before we're
Please
done?
do. Please do.
So it's like that world building I was talking about.
Uh-huh.
Wraith has a passive ability where she gets this warning. She hears a voice talk to her.
Right.
Spidey sense.
Right. When you're under attack or about to be, and the description says you think it's on your side.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always come up. Lots of times I'll see somebody before the voice even warns me, but there's one time where I was aiming down my scope at somebody across the creek and they hadn't seen me, and then the voice goes, "Sniper, get down." And then I just sprint forward and a bullet whizzes past my head. Like barely misses me as I duck into the building
That's
from behind.
awesome.
Yeah, that's
It's really cool.
What does it mean that it's always or not always on your side then? I just don't get that.
The description is just like she hears a mysterious voice warning her of danger.
It's just
She
flavor.
thinks it's on
It's
her
just
side.
flavor. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not anything
Well,
funky where
that's
it's gonna
setting
mess
up
with
for
you.
a natural counter where they're going to create a character that can whisper
There we
sweet
go.
nothings into
There
Raid's
you
ear
go.
and lure her somewhere or something.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
That sounds very fun. Hey, Apex Legends, it's free.
It is free.
And it was made in Source. It's the first Source Battle Royale.
And the servers function perfectly.
Yeah, I
on
know.
launch day.
Is this
Almost
an EA game for
perfectly.
real?
It's crazy. Yeah, I've had a couple of weird connection errors.
Yeah,
on PS4.
yeah.
So
I
while,
really
while I
feel-
was at the preview event, when I asked Drew, one of the questions I asked him was, "So, how are you guys feeling about servers?" Because this was literally the Anthem demo had just crashed and
Right,
burned.
right.
And it was like, well, we're really nervous.
This is how I know Drew isn't lying when he said EA had nothing to do with the game.
How do you guys feel about the timing of this compared to Anthem?
It's EA always does this. They stack that's like how they're programmed. All the sports games come out in like 4 weeks. All their shooters are always right on top of each other. I don't know why.
Is it like an end of the fiscal year thing for this case of like, well, we got to get it in before March. Let's just go ahead and
I
go for
really
it.
don't know. Maybe they saw the Battlefield numbers and were like, Respawn, can you guys get this ready a little bit quicker?
Yeah, that could
I
be.
don't know.
But hats off to Respawn. They did it. They got it ready. And it's crazy stable.
Yeah.
Getting out of the gate. Hey, Apex Legends, good times. Leo, Weedcraft Inc.
Yeah.
Okay, what is this?
So it's a management sim. There's a few scenarios. The main one being you are this guy who moves back into his parents' house after his dad dies, and he doesn't have money for business school anymore. And so you're trying to grow weed. And it is
Yeah.
crazy how complex it is and how many systems there are. Like,
Is
it's
it educational?
very?
Is it really?
You're managing nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium levels on your different strains of weed,
Huh.
and managing temperature and humidity to try to actually figure out what is the ideal combination for each of these strains.
Now, can some company in Colorado make that weed for you after you've created your strain?
Like a Jackbox situation.
Yeah, like the Jackbox
Exactly.
things.
Making the T-shirts.
That'd be great.
That's amazing.
But you start out watering and cultivating your own crops, and then you end up hiring people to do it. And then once you hire people, you can talk to them and befriend them, and they'll tell you information about themselves, and you can investigate individual tidbits about them.
So it's Stoned Dew Valley.
Sure.
That's good. Farm hemp together. I don't know.
But you can investigate, and if you find 3 pieces of dirt that are linked, like I was talking to this cop who, after I became really good friends with him, he revealed that he had like mob connections, and he worked in a dangerous part of town but never got hurt. And so I investigated that dirt, and then I had that he was a dirty cop as dirt to use, and then I used it to blackmail him into keeping his eyes off of where I was growing my weed. And then he got so frustrated by me blackmailing him, he moved out of town and got replaced by a new cop.
I'm happy to hear that it's interesting because it's like, okay, the giggle factor, like, hey, it's a game about weed. Here we go. Dantek's smirking his face off. But it's nice that the gameplay is actually nuanced and interesting here.
There are so many systems in it. There's like different classes of people like different strains. Like for a while, I was just selling Reggie to vagrants.
My God.
You know, but there are jocks. They're eventually celebrities, and they all like their own different strains. And
So
all
it's
of
got
your-
a high maintenance kind of thing going for it too. That HBO show, which if you haven't watched, it's fantastic.
That's a great show.
Yeah.
I've seen
Definitely.
Hollyweed, Kevin Smith's TV pilot, if that's what you're referring to.
I have
It's a
not
different
seen
thing
that one.
entirely. It's
Is it
terrible.
better than GTA Chinatown Wars in terms of its like?
Oh, weird.
It is funny you bring that up. It looks so much like GTA Chinatown Wars.
What?
Like the aesthetic, obviously you're not moving around the world in the same way, but when you zoom out to see the city, the people walking around are 3D cell shaded. It looks a lot like Chinatown
Oh,
Wars.
that's awesome. And it's PC only?
Yeah, at this time.
Okay, but it's not out yet.
No,
right?
no, we got an early preview of it.
Okay, do you know when it's out?
No, I don't.
Okay, that's fine. Hey, folks, he forgot. Anyways, Sunless Skies, real quick, Dan.
Oh, sure.
This is
sure.
the spiritual sequel to Sunless Seas.
Sure, yeah.
Okay, let's see. Played a little bit of it. It feels like a Galaxy
How much did you
meets
play of it?
80 Days.
Galaxy.
That'll be my combo.
Oh, boy.
How would you describe it? Make some combos.
It's a visual novel combined with a hardcore roguelike.
There we go.
That's the gist of it. It's fascinating.
Yeah,
Is
I
the
think so.
writing as good as?
Yeah, it's better.
Really?
Much better.
Did you play Sunless Seas?
Yeah, the writing was really good in
Yep.
that game.
The writing in this game is impeccable. I think it might be the best written game I've ever played.
Whoa! Wait a minute! What the hell?
That's what I'm saying.
He has not played Red Dead 2 yet.
That's
Let
correct.
the folks
I
at
have not.
home know.
I have not. Let them know.
Wow, that's shocking. I mean, it needs to be because there's a lot of reading in this game.
There is. That's if you don't like reading, you're not going to like this game. This
Yeah.
game is about having adventures through terror. You know, weird steampunk, Victorian, weird fantasy, gothic, Lovecraftian-ish. Less than Seas, but still plenty of Lovecraftian.
It's a bizarre world to try and wrap your mind around. It's like,
The
okay, you're
setup's hilarious.
it's like you're kind of flying a train through
steam locomotive in the sky.
and then you have a recon unit that's a bat that
Starts off
argues
with a bat. Yeah.
Okay, that he wants to be paid more. It's like, what is
That's
this?
your
And the
scout
British
universe?
Empire has conquered everything and moving into space. You know.
In fact, it's crazy. And I don't no spoilers, but like the British Empire has actually learned how to package, mine, and utilize time as a resource, like an actual thing that you can hold and use in other ways. So they've created like time loops where you can have the same party all day, every day, and like all kinds of other insane things. And that's once you get to London, which is more mid game.
Okay.
It's absurd. It's insane. Like the same sort of like short story vignettes from the first game.
Right.
Just much better executed. You feel like you have more agency over what's happening in the world. Some of the same problems still exist from the first game. I hate the combat. And you don't have to participate in the combat if you don't want to. Get yourself a fast trading ship and just just go buy all that crap. Just ignore it. And there's a lot of, as you build up, you do need to do some build up because you're going to have to get reserves because if you die, you pass on your XP. You pass on a lot more in this game. Your XP,
Okay.
your vessel, and everything in your bank.
Right, and
So-
you design a new captain every time you die.
Yes.
Then? That's the whole idea.
Yeah, so despite the roguelike nature, you are making permanent progression in this one. It feels a little more forgiving than Sunless Sea, and you can churn the dials of the game a little bit to make it easier to like use less supplies and less fuel. It'll still be challenging, I assure you.
But in that respect, yeah, there's still some repetition in the trading. You're going to have to go from port to port and do a lot of stuff like that. And you kind of feel like once you get into that repetitive mode that you just really want to accelerate these different yarns and these threads that you're pulling on, and you're getting bogged down in, taking, various goods to different ports just to make cash.
Right. Playing on PC, I presume.
Yes.
It does have controller support, which is very nice.
It does. I haven't tried it, but...
yeah, it's good. Yeah,
excellent.
Totally fine. Is it on consoles?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
It should be.
It should be.
This is a game that just... Like I said, I already gave it a huge accolade, and I do think, like, the writing is... The scenarios that they come up with, the weird stories they come up with, it's like, wow, I want to know more about this.
It's just basically a little choose your own adventure then, where it's like, do you want to go deeper into this ship? Do you want to test your luck? All this stuff.
But it does have effects on you, too, which is interesting. Like, this, with a dialogue-driven tree, you're just like, okay, I'll pick this, and then X happens. But in this one, you've also got, like, sort of D&D style skill checks, where it's like, if you've got enough heart, if you've got enough... it's all this. It's the same. It's dex strength and all that stuff, but it's called some other stuff. But
so there's going to be a review on the site, maybe even now.
we should have it. Yeah,
this?
it might even be up right now. I don't know.
Sunless Skies, but overall, liking it, loving it.
I'd say love. Love is accurate.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, he said love.
Just like I said, if you like Sunless, this is like Sunless Sea had its problems. This game, I was able to ignore some of the things that bothered me about that one and just really go into the oh man, the stories are great. They're great.
It seems prime for that type of game that if it's in contention or on the bubble for a top 50, that's like, hey, more people need to play this. I hope it doesn't go under the radar because it's doing some really interesting things.
Yeah,
it's a fascinating setting for sure.
It really is.
Cool.
I'm glad you found love this year, Tack. That's beautiful.
We're
It's
proud of
hard,
you, man.
It's hard, but we get there.
Yeah. Speaking of love, Etrian Odyssey Nexus.
Ooh,
Dan Tack, real quick, you gave that a sucker an 8.0.
I did a solid 8. So
and you love these types of games.
I do. Those are the classic wizardry style tile. Chart your map, get experience, kill stuff, go on, kill boss, over and over and over. And you do that. This one has more dungeons than any other game in the series. It's huge.
Okay.
And tons of classes. The problem is a lot of it's recycled. So it's, they call it an homage or a love letter to the rest of the franchise. And yeah, sure. But a lot of those dungeons are the same. A lot of the enemies are the same. A lot of the bosses are the same.
So if you like your JRPG Wheaties, this is like...
Yeah, it has plenty of content for you, okay? But if you're an Etrian fan, you've already seen a bunch of it before. And you still probably won't care because there's tons of dungeon diving to do in this and character advancement. So,
does it suck not getting to play it on a 3DS? Because wasn't that the fun of being able to
this was
draw?
on a 3DS.
Oh, it actually is
Yeah.
on. This is a 3DS game.
It absolutely is.
I just assumed it had moved on at this point.
That's probably next for the series.
Okay.
Yeah. This was the last 3DS entry in the Etrian.
How much does it need that hardware just for drawing with the stylus?
You know
and
what?
Stuff?
I don't think so. Making your own map is fun, but as the years go on, the series has gotten more streamlined stuff. Like I barely do any map making now. You can do all it yourself, but they have auto mapping now. So I don't need to draw every wall. I still need to mark a gathering spot and mark a secret door or a secret wall, but most of the stuff, it's all automated.
Okay, reviews on the site, Etrian Odyssey Nexus. For now, thanks guys. You want to move on to emails?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Welcome back to the Game Informer Show. I'm with now Kyle Hilliard.
Hi.
I'm with now Brian Shea.
Hello.
I'm with now Dan Tack.
Apex Legends.
Okay. One more time. People wrote into podcast@GameInformer.com. They wrote in with dares, questions, words of wisdom, consequences, feedback, anything that makes the show better. They sent it into podcast@GameInformer.com.
Dares.
People have been sending in so many wonderful emails lately. I feel like the amount of email we've received in the last month weekly has doubled.
Nice.
It's confusing. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a better pitch. But podcast@GameInformer.com. Here we go. We're going to read through some of our favorites. We're going to choose our absolute number one favorite and honor that person as the winner of Email of the Week, honoring where they're from by putting a pin in the big board. Here we go.
It's a big honor.
I like the big board.
Yeah. How's your day going, Jay?
It's going all right. A little busy.
With what?
Well, I am covering news for us today, so
Oh, okay.
Whoa.
What does that entail?
mostly helping the interns.
Oh.
Whoa.
Yeah, we have a new batch of interns we'll introduce on the podcast at some
do.
point soon. That'll be fun. How are they?
They're doing wonderfully.
Who's your favorite?
Oh.
Man. Well, Hunter Wolf is a hard name to top.
It's very good.
On name alone, it's very
On
good.
name alone, I think he wins.
I think
Yeah.
he's the next character in Apex Legends.
Yeah, that's
Boom.
right.
I mean, honestly, if there was a character named Hunter Wolf in a battle royale, if it was a class, I'd be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That sounds
Yeah.
right.
We'll introduce him soon. But Kyle, how's your day going?
It's fine. It's good.
You're playing Pray for the Gods?
Pray for the Gods.
In early
yeah.
access?
Yes. Yeah.
this is the game that's like Shadow of the Colossus, but in the snow and an indie thing.
Yeah, it's a lot like Shadow of the Colossus.
But in the
And
snow.
then, after you beat the first Colossus, I'm sure it has a different name, I'm not sure what it is, you start like picking up items off the ground with things you can craft, and then
Oh,
you get
no.
a paraglider,
What?
and you can glide around like a little game called Breath of the Wild.
So this is exactly
Ooh.
your game. Is
Never
it?
heard
This
of it.
is a game made for me.
Does it seem good?
It's janky in early access.
Okay.
It's
So made for you.
made for me. Yeah, Breath of the Wild, janky game all around. But it's like premise and the way you move around the world, very cool so far. You can climb just about everything.
Is it
rock faces as well as the creatures that you're trying to take
And
down.
I can download this right now on Steam.
Yeah. So it has some like balancing issues and it's like it's an early access game, but I'm very intrigued by my early playtime.
Pray for the gods.
Praey to the gods.
We assume that, Kyle. We didn't even-
okay, just want to make sure it's clear.
First email is a bit of feedback from Cody Stokes. He says, hey, just so you know, as well as so I can let Rich Lynch from LA know, there is a gravelly voice that reads Resident Evil 2 if you have the classic soundtrack applied.
Cool.
So I've always
That's
just
why it
dabbled
didn't
with
happen.
that. I didn't leave it on and then go back to the main menu. So I love that that's still there. That's very
Do you think it was so that probably was not re-recorded? That was just the audio files from the original Resident Evil 2, right?
And I bet they got that guy to retirement for one more job.
Assuming he retired after, I don't know, 4, I guess.
No, they did it for 5
probably
and 6,
did it up
right?
through 6.
We
I'm
talked
sure.
about it
Yeah.
last week's show.
Yeah.
Drake Murray from San Antonio, Texas writes in and says, hey, with the news that Microsoft is really looking to push Xbox Live to the Nintendo Switch, as well as iOS and Android devices, do you think this means we may see Microsoft's game streaming service, xCloud, make its way to the Nintendo console someday? Yes,
There
we
you go.
do.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Good
Yeah,
answer.
I think that's a distinct possibility down the road. I think initially Xbox Live on Switch is probably just going to be like achievements and
For like cross-platform stuff?
yeah. So like if you have
Fortnite?
Dead Cells on Xbox and you play a little on Switch, then maybe crossplay or
that-
like Friends List would be awesome.
That almost seems, I mean, I don't know anything, obviously, but that seems harder to integrate than just streaming straight to the console.
It's possible. I mean, they've also like talked about streaming to like mobile games.
Okay,
Yeah.
we've got a lot to unpack
Yeah,
here. Okay,
yeah.
let's start with the basics. Shay, what do we know?
So we know that there is a GDC 2019 panel that is talking about Xbox Live coming to mobile devices and Switch.
Okay, so in theory, that's achievements.
Achievements, friends list, maybe the furthest reaches of this first iteration, voice chat would be something that I would be hopeful for, but I'm not.
Screenshot
So
sharing.
we might see this thing as an app on the Switch in the eShop called Xbox Live that we then download, and then it'll tie into like Minecraft and stuff.
That's in theory, that's what it would be initially, but like. I have an opinion piece on GameInformer.com that talks about like how far this may go and like why it would make sense for it to go these routes.
Right, and so Microsoft and Nintendo have been buddy, kissy lately.
Ever since
It's-
Fortnite crossplay, really, right?
since Sony pushed them together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also there's the rumors that one of the Smash DLC characters is going to be Steve from Minecraft. Like there is a growing weird collaboration, and then combined with Microsoft pushing the idea, at least at E3 last year, maybe even the one before that, of talking about like we want Xbox on everything. If it has a screen, we want you to be able to play Xbox games.
Yeah, and like in October they announced the xCloud saying that you're going to be able to like play Forza on your phone and like through streaming services.
Right.
And they're already doing like the Play Anywhere stuff where you can like, stream to your PC if you want to play your Xbox on your gaming PC.
Well, you can just download to the PC as well.
Or you
yeah.
can do that, yeah.
Through that horrific store.
like Surface tablets and stuff like that. Like some of that is already available. Yeah.
Well, yeah, where it gets crazy, and somebody wrote into the podcast with this idea a little while ago, is just asking, like, okay, so when the next generation of Xbox comes out, in theory, we won't have to buy it because we can use our Xbox One to stream? It's like, I think that's going to be correct.
Well, potentially it depends on if the Xbox One can run that software.
I would assume so. I mean, if it's just streaming,
Your
and
phone
in theory,
can run it, yeah.
Yeah,
But
if your
no,
phone can-
like, but what would it be streaming from?
The cloud.
The cloud.
Yeah.
The master cloud.
All
I
hail
mean,
the
that's all
cloud.
streaming is just basically a video feed from an alternate source.
If it can run a
Yeah,
video
yeah.
feed, in theory, it can run this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for saying in theory 3 times on this podcast so far. But where it gets insane, do you think there's a universe where you'll be able to stream Xbox 2 or whatever the hell, what's the code name?
Xbox
Scarlet.
360, Xbox One, Xbox 2.
Yeah, okay, Scarlet. Let's call it Scarlet. I think they might have changed the code name recently or something. But is there a world where we can stream Scarlet games on our Xbox 360, where they would add that feature from
smart.
an old Xbox
No.
game? I think it would be smart.
There's no world.
You want to make a bet?
No.
I think the question is, when was the last? Are they still updating 360 firmware? Are they still releasing games on 360?
It would be worth one last firmware push.
Yeah.
Say in theory it's coming out 2020. There's still probably a lot of active 360s out there.
Yeah.
And why not let that avenue, it's in the family, play new games?
And also, to kind of play into this theory, there is word on the street that there is a digital-only Xbox One model coming out sometime this year.
oh, this year?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that's
but that's
the
not next
report.
generation. That's just like a version.
Correct,
of
but like
Xbox One.
that would also, if they were going to go a more streaming-heavy route,
Right.
that would be perfect for that.
Which they unquestionably are.
Yeah.
You know.
Assuming that E3, like all the studios they bought, I don't think they're gonna have anything to show. Maybe, hopefully, they will at E3. I don't know. It's
doubt
tough
it.
to say. Will that be their big push? Will they announce like
Well-
Xbox Live is on Switch? It's here. Here's our new streaming stuff.
I mean, there's a panel about it at GDC.
Yeah.
Which happens at the end of March. So in theory, Ben Hansen,
Yeah.
we should learn more about it there. But
Okay.
yes, E3 could like really expand on what
Yeah.
that means.
But we should just bite into this big cookie in front of us here. Will we be streaming Xbox games in the future to our Nintendo Switch?
I think so.
I think so too.
I think that also it's entirely likely Game Pass will apply to that.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And so you'll get Game Pass, you'll get streaming of those games.
I assume it's going to be connected. Yeah.
Yeah.
What a world. What a fun future that we've gotten to this point where that seems like a reasonable thing that can happen.
Yeah,
We're
they're just
here,
kind
ladies
of
and gentlemen.
trying to become like the Netflix of games.
I hope there's some option, presuming that like streaming is their main focus. I hope there is an option to buy a piece of hardware that I can still not stream things to.
Well,
and
there
put-
will be, because
think
as
there
they
will be.
framed it last year at E3,
Yeah.
we're going to have multiple consoles, as they put it, right? So
You'll have like
I'd imagine
the
that's-
Roku Xbox equivalent.
I think there will be
right?
options because every time, like, look at PlayStation Now. Like, people hated that at first, and I think people are slowly coming around to it as it's improved.
Yeah.
But like, people still want local versions of their games or physical copies. So I don't think Microsoft would be wise to completely abandon that model.
I hope not.
Dantac, isn't console gaming fun?
Yeah, it's great. You know what? I got my PC2 coming up. It's going to be able to stream games.
Hey, forget about it. Come on, buddy. Hey, let's keep talking about the future here. Devin T. Gallagher, you know him, you love him. He says, hello, crew. With the PlayStation 5 on the horizon this year or next year or whatever, I'm curious what you guys want in terms of the controller design for the DualShock. Personally, I love the DualShock 4. I love the touchpad. Sure, a lot of developers barely took advantage of it. However, I loved it for the sole purpose of pulling up a map in any game. It was super frustrating that it wasn't used for Red Dead 2. I totally agree.
It does feel like oddly good to use that to like bring up the map, and I don't
Because
know why.
when you need that map, you're so frantic. It's like, where's that button? You just slam your entire fist down and it brings it
That's
up.
exactly how it happens. I actually really love the DualShock 4. I think it's the first PlayStation controller I've really liked. I did not like the PS3. I did not like the PS2 or 1.
You probably liked the one back in the day when you were a little dumb kid. But
Not the non-DualShock version. Like I didn't
when you had
like
nothing
the-
to compare it to, though.
I never liked it. Like I didn't like
Really?
it as a kid.
I mean, you could
like,
compare it to the Super Nintendo or N64
I could,
controllers.
yeah, like the N64 controller I thought was better than the PS1 non-DualShock controller.
That's an interesting comparison.
But I think the DualShock 4 is amazing. It's almost as good as the Xbox One controller. The only thing I don't like about it is the lack of offset analog sticks, and that's the only thing I would change.
There's that whole thing. Yeah, I mean, it definitely, they've gotten better at this, but I've got a controller now from launch that's just the analog sticks are just torn to shit.
Yeah, like the new ones are great about that, though.
I think we can get rid of that light bar probably, or just have the option to turn it off.
It would be very nice.
Mr. VR over here, like that's one of the key
If it needs to,
functionalities.
yeah, if it needs to be on for certain games, but for a lot of games, I would just like the option to turn it off.
Can't
Right.
you turn it almost completely
You can
off?
dim it,
No,
but
you
it's
can
still,
dim it. It's still totally
I
there,
play
though.
I usually play with the lights off late at night, and it just basically makes my lap glow.
Slow down.
Among
Yeah.
other reasons.
Hello. Yeah, the crazy thing, though, is, it seems like if you're going to drop something, the touchpad is an easy thing to drop. Maybe it'll bring down the price a little bit of controllers as well moving into the future, because it's
Yeah.
weird that we want the PS5 controller to be simpler by just removing the touchpad because no one's using it. But where it gets insane, and Giant Bomb has talked about this a fair amount, it's an interesting idea, the idea that, hey, if you're going to be able to play PlayStation 4 games on your PlayStation 5, which, God willing, that's going to happen.
There's a rumor of
There's a
that.
patent.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Then would they ditch the touchpad? Or do they redesign the controller and just make it so if you want to play a PS4 game that needs the touchpad, you would need to just plug in or sync up your old DualShock 4?
Yeah, because I mean, it's all Bluetooth, right?
Right.
So
I'm trying to think if there's a precedent for like a game's backwards compatibility with some missing controller element. I think like if you play N64 games on your Wii, they use the right control stick to replace the C buttons, typically.
Yeah.
I can't really think of any other good examples of that where like some element of a previous controller didn't work going forward.
Right.
Because I always look at that as like that's the main reason we will never get like DS games on Switch because there's not two
unless they
screens.
changed, unless they like do
Figure
something to
something
the
weird.
game. Yeah.
Right. Fun times. I want to see that controller. I felt very privileged on the infamous Second Son cover story trip, Dan. Don't fall asleep
It
while I
was
tell
very
the story.
infamous. I won't, I promise.
Okay. On the cover story trip, Sony said that it was a big deal. They said I was the first person outside of Sony to get to touch, or first person in the press at least, to get to touch the PS4 controller. Because it was like on lockdown. And it was like a prototype of the PS4 controller.
Yeah.
It looked different. It was
The
funky.
rubber already peeling off the control stick?
Exactly. The second I touched it, then it just melted in my hands. It was very confusing. And then, as we know, if the Second Son was one of the more interesting versions of using that
Yeah, the
controller, right? 'Cause you,
shaking
like
and
shake
hearing
it for
the-
the.
I actually
paint
liked
can.
that. It was
I did
satisfying
too.
to kind of spray. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
cool.
Okay, Rush from San Francisco.
The band?
Oh, no,
Great
the
band.
driving game.
Oh, okay.
Says, hey, Ben and crew, just wanted to say how awesome Brian Shea's article about his dad was.
Oh,
Rest in peace. What are some of your
dead? Wait,
the article of the father?
I didn't read the
Brian?
article. I just assumed. What are some of your favorite moments of gaming with your family? Oh,
Is this a good opportunity to make fun of Shay's dad for liking cows or something? Can we do that?
what?
what the hell are you talking about?
Long-time listeners of last week.
Who
will get
doesn't
what I'm
like
going at.
cows?
Yeah, who's anti-cow? Let's see. Family. Brian Shea, you wrote an article about playing Pac-Man with your papa.
Close enough.
He clearly read the article. It's a good article, Shay. I read it.
Yeah, I did.
What's it about?
Well, the headline speaks for itself. My dad helped introduce me into video games, and now I am repaying the favor. Basically, he was largely responsible for me getting my first console, a Super NES, under the tree at Christmas one year. And we ended up playing Super Mario World all the way through, then became helplessly obsessed with games like Super Mario Kart and Donkey Kong Country. Just played those until, if the cartridge could get worn down, it probably would have.
Till the cows came home.
And then eventually,
Shay's favorite thing,
the cows.
the cows.
And he kind of fell off once N64 hit, and he stopped playing altogether. And basically now I'm taking the opportunity. But I kept getting more and more into gaming. Now I'm taking the opportunity. He was interested in VR, so I recommend him getting a PSVR.
Oh, interesting.
And now that he has a PS4, I'm taking this opportunity to kind of introduce him to several other games from this generation. So I gave him Overwatch one year for Christmas, and he freaking loves it. And this Christmas, I gave him God of War. So now he is playing through that.
Those are two pretty demanding games for
Yeah,
a daddy.
those are
he's-
core titles,
Yeah.
I call them.
He I told him to play God of War on easy, and he is determined. So he is playing it on normal.
He beat me. I played that game on easy. Jesus Christ.
But he's stuck on the very first troll boss.
Yeah.
But he's trying.
I don't really play games with my parents. They're not into it. I had a weird.
Siblings?
I think my
the
sister
question was
played Crash
parents.
Bandicoot back in the day. Yeah. No, I think it just said family.
Oh, it did?
Yeah.
Okay.
Siblings. Let's not count those. That's less interesting. But I had this weird moment over Christmas where I bought that card game that Miller talked about called The Mind, where it's a very simple game where all you're doing is you're laying down cards 1 through 100, and you have to go from lowest to highest, except everybody has cards, and you're not allowed to communicate what you have in any way. So you just have to try and guess when you're up next, which is very simple but very fun. But anyways, an aspect of that game, I was explaining to my parents with the rules and stuff. And I was like, yeah, if we fail, we have these cards over here and they represent our lives. And then, there's going to be levels. We're going to be leveling up as we go along. And my parents are like, whoa.
Yeah, they probably have no idea what that means.
They're like, lives? I was like, yeah, lives in the game. They're like, what are you talking about? It's just that weird reset of the concept of levels and lives have never touched game design in their minds.
Yeah.
It's just insane.
Well, I mean, it's similar to something I brought up in my piece. My dad has that experience of playing Mario and Donkey Kong Country, so he knows what lives and levels are. But when he got Overwatch, he was like, "What are these loot boxes?" So it's like so ingrained in our current landscape now what that is. But like for somebody who doesn't pay attention to the industry, it's like such a foreign concept. So I had to like liken it to like trading card packs. Like, you kind of get like you open it, you don't know what's going to be inside, and you get stuff to keep.
Be honest. Has he asked one dad-esque question about, hey, can I get porn on this PSVR? Like,
he has not.
Is that a dad question?
Dads love porn. Come on. Then Kyle plays games with his daughter. Anyways, so Jerome Rowe from Brisbane, Australia says, "G'day." That's a joke. Anyways, he actually wrote "G'day." I've never written in, but I just heard Leo say he's never played Advance Wars and felt compelled to put him on the spot. I thought he said he likes systems in his games, but he's too good for Advance Wars.
I'll admit, I am too good for Advance Wars.
I don't fully realized society.
I don't think Leo was born yet when Advance Wars came out.
That's true.
I have had the opportunity to play every game, and the ones that I haven't played, they're bad.
He said it. Are there any games you guys haven't played that everyone else reacts like, "What? That's such a you game, though"? Love the show. You're all great. Even Dan Tag. I don't know.
I don't think that was in there.
What do you think? I typed that up
You
on
wrote
my
that
own?
in.
Yeah. I'm modifying these emails from more Dan
You also
Tag
added
references.
"G'day" for some reason. It's very confusing.
That's right.
So games that we haven't played that people have reacted like,
They're
"Oh,
like,
that's okay."
I think maybe like you're big on shocked that I haven't played Kingdom Hearts because I
yeah.
like Final Fantasy a lot and I like Disney a lot, and I've played 20 minutes of the first one.
So you got it.
You don't like Pixar though, right?
I love it.
There's an A113 license plate in Kingdom Hearts 3, Hanson.
That's fine. There's also that in Beyond Two Souls. So I feel like Quantic Dreams
Is there really?
steal it. Yeah.
Wait,
they took
wait,
that
wait.
Pixar Easter egg.
Is one of them a former from that
I don't
California
know.
School of Arts?
Yeah.
Former,
I
that would
don't
make
know.
sense.
I would imagine they just think that's what good movies do, right? Is they have an A113 Easter egg. Let's just throw that in here.
That's funny.
Well, for me,
Yeah.
I think Majora's Mask is probably a very good example.
Oh, yeah. I give you about that.
Yeah,
all
you
the
do.
time.
Production does.
What's your favorite game of all time?
Breath of the Wild.
Well, before Breath of the Wild came out.
Ocarina of Time.
So clearly you've played the sequel, right?
No, but
okay.
it's also funny because my second favorite game of all time before Breath of the Wild was Final Fantasy X. I haven't played 10-2.
Well,
which I know that's a little bit more
Yeah.
excusable, but like it's funny that like two of my favorite games of all time are games in series that don't typically have direct sequels.
Yeah.
Right.
And they happen to have direct sequels, and I just haven't played them.
2 cash-ins. One's interesting though. Okay, what do you think? Okay, percentage of satisfied customers. Dan, why do you look so miserable?
That's just his default look.
I'm just waiting for the hammer to drop here.
It's a hypothetical. I'm just wondering what that percentage is. Customers that own, and I consider gamers customers that own Ocarina of Time, right? Percentage of Ocarina of Time lovers that try Majora's Mask that enjoy it versus 10 lovers that try 10-2. You know what I mean?
Oh God.
So the Ocarina fans that
I think more Ocarina fans went on to Majora's
I think so.
Mask
I
than
think, but
10
it's
went
still
to
that
10-2.
drop off. I will say 61% of Ocarina lovers will like Majora's Mask. Is that a fair drop off?
I think it'd be higher. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Based on what I've heard, it would be higher.
73.
Honestly, Shay's the only
actually-
person I've ever met that loved Ocarina of Time who hasn't played Majora's Mask.
I think there's a lot of people.
And
out
it's
there.
funny
They've
because
tried
I
it and
own
weirded out.
multiple copies of it, and I've just never played it.
Yeah. And then what about 10 to 10-2?
That's got to be a lot lower.
30%?
Yeah. Oh, Shay.
21%.
Dan's giving you the eyes.
I don't know. The
eyebrows.
Final Fantasy faithful, they'll play.
They're not defending 10-2.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, yeah.
They do. I deal with that community all the time.
How?
When trying,
How do
We
you
work
do
with
it?
one. His
Cosplay
name's Joe
action?
Juba.
when trying to get them to play the good ones. Okay.
Like what?
7. Moving on.
Yeah. Let's not
Chris
do that.
Cave from Nottingham, UK says, "Hello, GI. With all the talk on the podcast, if anything interesting will be made in dreams, it has got me thinking that it could take an existing community to bring together an idea and people needed to make a game. That will get a wider group of people to take note, so why not the Game Informer community? Here's my idea. We get listeners to suggest their game ideas, the editors would pick the one they like, and then they would try to think, but they would also think, is it possible to build it in Dreams? Then once Dreams is out in the wild, GI would try to bring a group of Dreams users together to build this game." I like where this is going. I do also like the idea of in theory, doing a game club on Dreams someday, right?
Yeah.
Trying to
Game Club
get-
on Dreams.
Yeah, doing like a more community game jam.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of my favorite things that we did when I first joined Game Informer was like we compiled a list of all of our Mario Maker levels. And it would be
Right.
cool to do something like that with Dreams if enough of us got deep
I don't
into
think.
the
I
things.
bet JV will make one of his little Twine adventures.
Maybe.
And then
Whoever reviews it'll make something.
Leo will make some music. Yeah.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know if anyone in this office is going to make a game.
I will.
No, you won't.
I will.
He's on record right now saying it. So
Have you
now he's
seen
got
those
to do it.
tutorials?
Nope.
Okay.
All right,
here-
try.
I'll
No,
make something.
he said I will.
Yeah, I know.
I love creation tools.
Look, Dan, you also said you're going to build out a PC that can
I never
compete with
actually.
the
I
Xbox
never
One
said
X.
that. I said that was always a question.
We
And I
have it
never
on
said it
tape.
was happening.
Yeah, it's on tape somewhere. Please send it in, everybody. Matt Sheldon has a great question. He says, "Hey, I'm Matt Sheldon from Erie, Pennsylvania.
That's a statement.
Yep. Today I found myself browsing through the Switch store, new releases, trying to decide if any of the titles were worth checking out without having to Google every single game I haven't heard of. I routinely check the GI website for new Switch reviews as a way to keep up to date as possible for standout releases, but I'm living in constant terror that I'm missing out on great titles due to the poor marketing or obscurity for all of these games coming out. Would you have any recommendations for resources I could use to help make sure I'm not missing out on any hidden gems?"
Nope.
That's
Visit
eShop.
GameInformer.com and look at our reviews.
But we can only get
Thanks.
Yeah,
so
there
many.
are
I
so
know.
many. I mean, that's like asking if there's a place where there are reviews for every single Steam game.
Or
like,
mobile
It's
game.
not
yeah.
quite that. Insane.
This
Yeah,
is
it's
actually...
No, there's more games on eShop than
The
Steam.
eShop is absurd these days, but that actually is my solution. Is there is a place for reviews for every game on Steam.
Steam?
The Steam user reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, like look on the eShop. Odds are pretty high those are also going to be on Steam. Then just look that up, see what the
Well, he's trying to say he
user
doesn't want to
reviews
Google
are.
all of them individually.
I know, but this is the only way to do
It's
it.
not Google if you're typing into the Steam search bar.
Yeah, that's right.
honestly, no.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to get some sense of how these games are. If it's overwhelmingly positive, barely positive, extremely negative,
I would bet,
unplayable.
like, outside of typing them all into, like, the Steam user reviews, there are probably some Nintendo-focused fan pages that probably look at some of the smaller games.
I would trust the Hive Mind more though.
He's saying he doesn't want to have to search all the games. So if he doesn't want to have to search all the games, just find a...
I'm saying Matt needs to buck up and type on his keyboard if he's that interested in a specific game on here. But anyways, otherwise, GameInformer.com/reviews is the way to go. Kyle,
That's me.
are you playing your Switch these days?
Yeah, all the time.
What have you been playing recently?
Lumines, I've been gotten back into.
Oh, weird.
That's a good one.
I've been riding a little indoor bike every night, trying to get some exercise, and I
Really?
found that Lumines is like the best one.
Oh,
to,
it has music.
the time
so, yeah,
flies.
Huh.
Yeah, like at 15 minutes is up like in no time at all.
And this is a little toddler's bike with like streamers on the side that you just ride around the living room?
Yeah, I just go in a circle around my
Huh.
coffee table. It works really well.
That's weird.
Work up a sweat.
Oh,
And
you-
Onimusha on my Switch was the last one I played.
Well, then you'll love this next question from Michael Carney from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Hey, yeah, and crew. Thank you, Deep Cut. What was the most recent old game that you've beaten, and does it hold up? If it was a classic, do you agree? Or if it was panned, did you disagree? The most recent old game that we beat, probably for you, it's Onimusha,
It's
right?
Onimusha, yeah. And I wrote something about it. I think it does hold up. But I think it was when it came out, it was like one of those all nines kind of games.
Yeah.
It's probably not that strong, but
Oops, all nine.
Oops, all
they call it.
That's
Yeah.
a good name for a game. Oops, all nines. And it holds up. It's still cool and creepy, and it's a cool like Resident Evil style samurai beat 'em up. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
2 nights ago, I finished my first playthrough of Persona 4.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very impressive.
So I enjoyed it a
Golden?
lot. I think, yeah, Golden. I actually bought a PlayStation TV from a friend in order to play it up on the screen because I just cannot do long like marathons on handheld.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. It just doesn't work for me. I like sitting back on the couch and just holding a controller around my lap and playing.
Right. Well, the PlayStation TV is probably the classic example of what you're looking for earlier, Kyle, right? With like the weird porting, but kind of missing some of the controls and stuff.
Oh yeah, because some Vita games wouldn't have the back touchpad and stuff.
Right.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was also looking at like, all right, well, what else can I play on this thing? And I was like, oh, I have PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. So I tried to play that, and it was not supported by the PlayStation TV.
Oh, that's
and
a
I
bummer.
was, I wouldn't say devastated. I would say more like mildly inconvenienced to move on to something else.
Right. It's also not supported by a drop of dopamine in the brain.
Hey,
Leo, is Leo a fan of that game? Did I make that up? Is that a
Yeah, people give that game too much crap. I thought it did a lot of
Yeah.
interesting stuff. Good combat.
But yeah, Persona 4 Golden still very good. I like Persona 5 better.
Okay, wow, bold take. I beat, this kind of counts, I beat Spyro 2 over Christmas break.
Reignited?
It was reignited, though.
Oh,
yeah.
of course.
Yeah. I thought the game held up remarkably well. I love the original Spyro so much I never finished Spyro 2. It was fun to go through, even though it's shocking. There's like 3 boss fights in an entire game, and this one towards the end is just a piece of work. It was brutally difficult, and then Ripto at the end was just a cakewalk. It's one of those weird difficulty spikes. It's like, you think they could have evened that out a little bit more in the remaster and stuff.
Tighten up the graphics on level 3.
Yeah, what's wrong with them tightening it up?
Dan, did you play anything old?
No, I've been struggling to think of something I could use here, but no, it's been all new stuff lately.
We've been playing Farming Together, and that's like that
That's
came out
new,
on
though.
Steam a while ago.
That's new. It was early access.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Oh, really?
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but it just came to console and Switch recently. I think.
Yeah, I'm excited to someday try.
It doesn't fall into classic territory.
Classic.
It's old. It's
Pure
old for
classic,
Dan.
yeah.
Dan only plays the newest stuff. Doesn't
That's
have a
not true.
backlog.
It's not. I don't have a backlog. But
What is the last game that was older than 5 years that you played?
well, finished was the key here. So played doesn't count.
Oh, what about when Pokemon
wasn't
got
an answer.
When Pokemon got re-released on 3DS, you beat like Pokemon Red, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, well, there you go.
Hey, pretty cool.
That's all I wanted.
Dan Huff from Columbus, Ohio says, GI Crew, the other day I threw my PSVR headset on and jumped into Star Wars Battlefront VR mission. It was short but enjoyable, but the best part about it was jumping in and out of hyperspace. I've often thought of what it would be like to stand on the bridge of a capital ship and make the jump to light speed, but sadly, I'll never get to actually experience this. Don't
write it off yet.
Come on.
We're close.
What is something that you have always wanted to experience but will never be able to because it is not real or feasible to do so?
Happiness.
Oh.
Jeez, I don't think I'm top that one.
This is stuff I think about all the time. Anytime I'm up high on something, I want to see if I can make a jump. This is what I want. And this is why I want all of the world to be digitized, and I can just, super Matrix VR style, right? Because I just want to know, if I technically jumped from this to that tiny platform over there, could I land that without dying?
Like you just want to live in a
Fascinating.
platformer.
I want to live in a platformer, yes.
When I had an old job, like an office job, we had like a 23rd story building, and there was a building like a block away, or not a block away, but like it was like the next building over, but it was like probably 10 floors lower than us.
Yeah.
And I would always ask people, hey, do you think you could make this jump from our break room to that rooftop?
And you would walk around the office asking them again and
Oh
again
my God,
and
yes.
again. Yeah.
And
until you were fired.
It actually became a very large topic of discussion in
Right?
this.
But that type of stuff
in
is
this
so
office.
fun. And if we were able to digitize reality, which get on it, game developers, if you're listening, I just want to know what that's like to try and make those jumps. Or just a zip line all around real life.
Yeah.
Kidding me?
I just want
No
like,
penalty of death?
I'm not kidding you.
I just want like
kidding
flight.
you.
Just like Superman style flight. I don't need to go as fast as Superman. It can be just leaping tall buildings in a single bound. It doesn't
That
have
would
to
be
flight.
handy.
I just want to be able to jump really high and really
Yeah, like
far.
what about like
right.
even things that are feasible for other people, like doing like a LeBron James style dunk? Like something like that would be cool.
Who cares when you can fly? And put a little orange thing in
I'm
a
trying to
hole?
keep it a
Who
little
gives
bit more
crap?
grounded.
No,
The
we don't
question
have to
wasn't
be
grounded at all.
Yeah.
The question
Like I'm trying to say
gave
like
no
something
limits.
I know I
Yeah.
will never experience, but I can look at right now and say, wow, that would be awesome to be
God,
able
if
to
I
do.
could do anything, I'd want to sink like a 12-foot putt.
That would be nice,
Wait,
wouldn't it?
12-foot putt? That's you could do that. That took like a handful of tries.
I could do that.
I don't know. Kyle's
At least
cutthroat.
mine was like my
The
legs will
golfing.
never be
I
like
know.
that.
Jonathan Obamsowin from Quebec, Canada says, I don't know if you remember me, Hanson. I'm the Canadian guy who won the bid on the Elder Scrolls Online bundle during Extra Life. I remember you
Thank
son of a-
you.
Congratulations.
We don't ship to Canada.
Thank you.
Well, we made an exception in
wait,
your
never
case.
mind, it's all right.
Yeah, but thank you for donating. It's very kind.
It's just like we're going up the street for Canada for us, right?
That's true. Hey, what do you think is the future of music games? One of my friends has been playing a lot of Beat Saber lately, and he seems to be having a lot of fun. So is that where the future of the genre lies? Considering the not-so-successful latest Guitar Hero game and the fact that the latest Rock Band was almost 5 years ago, whoa, are these games going to be put aside?
Well,
That's a Shay
it
question
was like
for
three
sure.
years ago. Rock Band.
Right.
And I think virtual reality is the future of rhythm games. That's my favorite virtual reality genre.
I think Beat Saber is definitely awesome. I don't know if that I would like to see more games like that. I definitely think licensed music is on the way out. 'Cause it's just too expensive, and rhythm games don't sell as well as they used to anymore.
So you can't just put, hey, Black Eyed Peas are on the cover. You should get this. Michael Jackson's The Experience. Prepare to be bummed out.
Well, I mean, like even like something like Rock Band, where every song has to be licensed with the record label, because licensing costs and like the process of going through licensing is just absurd.
But even like stuff like Thumper is awesome and improved in VR, I think.
Yeah, but I love music games. I don't really consider a Thumper a real...
Did you play it in VR though?
Not in VR.
Okay,
no.
because like it is a better game in VR.
Really?
I think so for sure. Yeah, and then even I don't remember the name of it unfortunately, but when we had our very first batch of VR reviews, one of the highest reviews we gave was Miller reviewed like a music game. And there's just something about letting music envelop your entire like peripheral vision and just like close everything off to just listen to the music. I think that's where they really excel. That's why Beat Saber's so much fun.
Nothing's better than letting music envelop your vision. I know what you mean.
I mean, think about like it's not a rhythm game,
I know,
but
it's just a funny
like
thing.
along those same lines, like Tetris Effect. That's awesome
right.
in
That
VR
kinda
for
falls-
that very reason.
Yeah.
And clearly Drop Mix Season 3 is going to revolutionize the world. What do you
That's
think
still a thing,
will
huh?
be Harmonix's next game, Brian Che?
Oh man, they were working on that rhythm-based shooter for a while.
Chroma?
But that never like even made it into the public before they canceled it. They were doing like play tests, but like
Is there
nobody.
like video footage of that game?
It was like on early access, early buy or something.
It was
I think they were
closed
doing
beta.
internal play testing.
Closed
right?
beta.
No, I
there
think
was something. There was
there
something.
was something.
I think the
yeah.
public could get into it. Yeah, but I never saw it, or it sounded interesting.
Yeah. I don't know. Like Rock Band, they're still putting out weekly DLC. A lot of it is like
What,
rehashed
for
stuff.
4?
Yeah.
Weekly.
Weekly. Like it's only like 2 tracks a week at this point, and a lot of them are like, "Hey, this is a song
That
that,
is
used to
2
be
more tracks than I thought were
exportable."
coming out a week. For.
Hang on, are you buying those?
I bought a few. Like if it's a song I like, I'll pick it up.
What are some of the recent songs? Like current pop hits or something?
No, they're like either songs that were on previous Rock Bands because you can't export
Okay.
those anymore. So like if somebody missed like Rock Band 1's export, it's like, hey, here's whatever this song is.
Oh, okay.
I was just playing Beatles Rock Band a couple weeks ago. It's still one of the best
Still
games
a very
I've ever
good
made.
game.
But
I wish it was
I just,
backward compatible.
I know. I just was kicking my ass for like, why didn't I download all the DLC when it was available? And I remember there was a news story like, hey, Rock Band Beatles DLC is going to be taken off the store soon. And I couldn't buy it for some reason. There's some barrier or some technical hurdle that stopped me from getting it. And now it's just like, oh, great. I'll never have all of Sgt. Pepper.
I'll have to have another Rock Band party. I have all the DLC.
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah, do it. I did.
We had a very good time.
That's true.
What was it? Me, you, Suriel, and the interns at the time.
Yep. And you remember they were all named?
Jordan, Manon, and I forget the third one.
Oh, devastating.
gosh.
Can you fix that in
Zach.
post?
Zach.
Ah,
I actually
very
hung
good.
out with Zach at NYCC
Fix
last
that in
year.
post.
Oh, that's nice. William from Red Lodge, Montana says, Dear Mr. Hansen and crew, my question for everybody is, what is your go-to name when creating a character in a game? I personally choose from the same pool of names I've always used, but for male characters, I like to use the name Gore. And for females, I use Pandora. That's legally iffy at these days.
Gore.
I have the same handles for all characters, regardless of sex.
Uh-huh.
So it's either Dan Rax, Dan Snacks. Those are the two.
Can I? Oh, I thought there was gonna be a third one based on your cadence.
Permission to opinion, Dan.
Go nuts.
I think those are bad names.
You're,
Can I?
You're allowed to.
What?
Ask
just-
the origin of these, because it's like everywhere with all of your accounts.
Yeah, it's true. It originated in college. One of my friends who was living in the same dorm came up with the whole concept based off a more aggressive name, which I don't use because terms of service required me not to. The original concept of Danrax was actually Dan Thrax.
Oh, and
So the Anthrax Association, which it didn't have
because
actually.
the band, right?
I don't even know the interpretation. This, like I said, I didn't even come up with the name.
Yeah.
One of my friends at the time, his name was Don. Came up with
So he's
names
going
for
with
all
Don Thrax.
for all of our online characters. We were playing a lot of EverQuest and Dark Age of Camelot at the time.
So why did you mail that anthrax to everybody in the government, though?
Literally
in the
never
early
happened.
2000s?
Never happened.
Oh,
Just
okay.
told the origin story of the handle.
Okay.
Sorry.
No, that's good.
Hanson
That's
hears
good.
what he wants to hear.
Yeah. For me, I like keeping this. It works for men or women. I don't know where it came from, but for like a thiefy type character, I'll go Sind, S-I-N-D. And then for
Permission to opinion.
Yes.
That's bad.
Really? Oh, I
Yeah,
love the name
Kyle,
Sind.
get
I
it.
think it's cool. And then like my
It's a
Dragoon type
past tense
character.
of sin.
Wait, your
No, but it-
Dragoon type character?
That's
How many games have a Dragoon type character?
Legend of Dragoon.
Yeah. For all my playthroughs of Legend of Dragoon, I name every character Typhon. T-E-I-F-E-N.
Typhon filter.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah.
And
Wait, so you only have a rogue and a Dragoon?
That's the only
I only
characters
play
he
games with
plays.
drugs. No, I'll
explains
bang
so
it.
much.
Those are like the origins of my mind. I think maybe it was like Final Fantasy 9. We're connected. Some of those. But like if I play a Pokemon game, I'll usually name my character Sind. Stuff like that. Yeah, it's badass.
I usually will look up and see if there is like a canonical name, and I'll name him that. Like
really
Persona, for example, has those guys. And
So you name him Link?
oh yeah.
Oh, that's.
And also there was always Ash in Pokemon.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Travis in Goshen, Indiana. Travis in Goshen says, "Hey GI friends, last week I heard Tim Turner's
Coming from
name.
a guy who goes by Sind.
Dude, it's a badass name.
Not for the Dragoon though.
Yeah, he's typing.
excuse me,
Come on,
excuse me.
Kyle.
Come on, guys. Last week I heard Tim Turner's name on a different gaming podcast. The same week you were talking about him as the last Every Game Matters judge. It's Every Game is interesting, but that's fine. It's a tough thing to remember. I know he worked at Game Informer as a friend of the show, but I'm curious if you guys are close with other members of the gaming media, like the Kind of Funny Guys or people at IGN. Does being in Minnesota isolate you from the gaming scene in California? Yes.
That's a good
It does
answer.
a little bit.
It does.
It
It
does,
does.
but like the internet makes it a little easier.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
and it is kind of like, I think it's more exciting for us to see all those people when we go out to things like E3 because we're not in that scene where you could just run into somebody at a restaurant or a bar.
Yeah, you get to be the special guest at a party that
Yeah,
everybody
exactly.
ignores. Yeah. No, it probably distances us a little bit, but like everyone's friendly and like Twitter means a lot. And you're totally right. It does make events more special, like preview events or something. It's like, oh, I can finally interact with this person from IGN or something that I've never really talked to as much. Like a good example, right, Dan, is like on that Jurassic World Evolution trip last year.
Sure.
It's like we had a lovely time hanging out with like Lucy from IGN and like Rob from Screen Rant and stuff.
Yeah,
We're
that
just
was
like, we're a unit, baby.
sure.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I don't know where you guys are at, but I'm friendly with a lot of other games press. But as far as like good friends, it's probably just like Dan from Giant Bomb. Dan
Who?
Rex from Giant Bomb. What about you
Old
guys?
Dirty Dan himself.
I mean, the question, I think it's true. I mean, straight up. Like,
Yeah,
There's no doubt about it.
Minnesota hold us back.
I don't say it's hold us back, but it does create.
questioning
We
Andy's
are
decisions
we are
here?
isolated from the rest of that community,
Right. Quarantine,
for better or
some would
worse.
say. Yeah.
Right.
Okay, here we go. This fella from Belgium, Wooter Swootens.
Okay.
Wooter Swootens?
Guys, don't laugh at his name. It's a
No, I'm
fine name.
I'm
no,
asking.
Dan, you and I.
That
are
was a
we're-
query.
we're- History will prove us correct. The other two are the ones who will be.
Query? Wooter Swootens?
Damn it! I laughed that time.
To say
Great. Now we're all the wrong except Dan.
I wanted to make sure you didn't miss the birth of a new genre, says Wooter. Dota Auto Chess is a custom map in Dota, which of itself is already amazing, given Dota's history. Last I checked, it had over 80,000 simultaneous players. It has little to do with Dota and even less with chess. I'd explain what the game is, but I see Dantech already wrote a piece on the site that does that. No question, just making sure you didn't miss one of the big developments in gaming in 2019.
It is a huge thing for Dota. Absolutely, for those who have been playing it, it's sort of it's much more. It's no micro required. You just make the units and they fight each other. So there's very seductive from that point. You don't need any gameplay skills.
You don't need to know anything about Dota.
No, you don't.
Do you need to know something about chess?
No.
What
It's
about
just-
autos?
Shut up. It's just like
Yes, it does play auto.
It's just a strategy game on a 10x10 grid
It's
using Dota characters.
Yeah, it's about picking units, combining units, and making like class and race combinations of those units to fight other teams, and it does the fighting automatically.
Yeah.
So it's pretty neat in that respect.
You build out your team, and then you basically just hit go, and they just sort of.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh,
See how good of a
That's how
planner
the,
you are.
thing.
That's kind of how the bonus modes are on those Mario and
It's,
Luigi remakes, actually.
It's just super. It's super easy to dive in, even if you've never played Dota, which I'm sure tons of people have actually picked up Dota just to play this.
Yeah.
Like, it's just some silly offshoot. I don't know if it's genre defining. Games like this have existed forever in the custom map settings game, but this is certainly an example of it being recognized. Like there were so many games that were like Dota when Dota came out. This is the sort of the equivalent of that.
Okay.
Are the creators making money from it at all?
There is
I
a
hope they are.
there is a monetization model for cosmetics within the game. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
So this is a career for those guys.
Have they done interviews?
I don't think they did an AMA on Reddit. I haven't seen any interviews outside of that.
Would you consider it a new genre?
No.
What is it? It's just a strategy game?
Like it's not just like I said, custom map settings have had stuff like this.
Yeah.
Not exactly like it.
Okay.
Like where you build out teams and they fight automatically.
Right. Will another company try and cash in on Dota Auto Chess?
It's inevitable.
Who
I don't
will?
know who it's going to be.
Epic.
I mean, nobody's tried to cash in on the battle royale boom.
This I don't think this is not on the same level as a battle royale boom. Not even close.
Yeah, of course.
But this is a great opportunity for somebody with resources, maybe maybe even Valve. Like this is very interesting. Interestingly enough, somebody's going to take the idea and AAA it, for lack of a better term. And
I could see Valve hiring them within.
Yeah,
6
I could
months.
too.
That'd
I
be
absolutely
really
see that.
interesting.
Like I said, the Mario and Luigi remakes have a mode like that. That's the addition for the remakes.
Mario and Luigi Auto Chess.
Auto chess, yeah.
Do you know what the modes are called?
Well, it's like the Bowser's minions and.
Am I going to be disappointed when I look up gameplay footage and this is nothing like auto chess?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I don't know.
Great.
It's just it's like that sort of baseline. You set up characters on a grid and then they just sort of automatically fight each other.
Well, see, in this game, it's like we didn't go into all the details, but it
yeah.
changes every round. Like so,
I'm sure Dojo Chess is like way more.
You're
detailed
purchasing units
and
out of a pool with everybody else, so you kind of have to look what they're building. Be like, no one's building warriors. I'm going to try to get all the warriors.
Do you like it a lot?
It's a lot of fun. I've cooled on it like since initial reception, but they keep patching it and adding to it, and people still love playing.
Have we ever talked about reviewing it? Would we ever review a mod?
custom map?
Yeah. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
That's a question for Joe.
Yeah, that's a fun one. Forrest from Lawrence, Kansas says, "Hey, GI crew. Hey, in the Every Game is Interesting challenge, Ben Reeves said that Kirby Squeak Squad was the last game Takesha Hamamura directed and the last game released by Flagship. These were the main points cited in his win. While both are technically true, there's some additional context needed. Kirby Squeak Squad was the last game Hamamura directed, but it was also the first game he directed. He still works on Kirby and was the lead game designer on Kirby Battle Royale. Talk about cashing in. Flagship was a studio founded by Capcom. The closure was part of a greater move by Capcom to close similar studios like Clover Studios and Capcom Studio 8, and employees of Flagship were merged into Capcom instead of being fired. So asterisk on that Ben Reeves win.
So he didn't. Is this the same
There's
asterisk?
a big asterisk on that one.
Like when the asterisk on his back of the box trivia.
When he was in the vault
when he was in the
watching
vault watching you take
This
photos.
happened like 5 years ago. You guys need to let it go.
That's highly suspect.
Okay, Cody writes in and says, "Hello, editors. First of all, the Calvin and Hobbes comic that Ben Reeves referenced as the last comic of Calvin and Hobbes, that was a fan creation. That was not actually the last one.
Does anything
wow.
he say on here is
Ben
anything
Reeves is
true?
just
Everything with a grain of
today.
salt.
I think I tried to counter that at the time because I
No,
think the
you
last one is when they like go off into
Check
the
the
woods.
tape.
and
It
they
is,
say, like,
it is.
yeah,
Check the
yeah.
tape.
I think I said
And then Cody also says, by the way, I did the math and it would take approximately 2 million years to remove the air from Earth were you to shoot a portal onto the moon.
Thanks for doing the math.
That's fascinating.
2 million years. That's
Cool.
longer than I expected.
But wait, how does that math work? Like, what did he?
Because the
do? What
air
did-
gets sucked through a portal.
No,
I don't
but
know.
trees are continually producing oxygen.
I'm sure he accounted.
So
Yeah,
did
he
he account
accounted
for
for
that,
every
or did
tree.
he just like? Oh, okay.
Look, scientists know what they're doing. Mathematicians have accounted for the trees. Here we go. Forrest from Lawrence, Kansas also writes in with the
there was no
correct...
question on that.
Oh boy.
No. Just here's the correct answer. He said, in the last podcast, you talked about what is the most popular game series that will never have another game in its entry. I want to send in 3 suggestions. Number 1, this is all that matters. This is correct. Wii. The Wii Sports sub-brand alone sold 115.12 million copies, but I don't see Nintendo ever returning to the Wii name.
Well, that's true.
Yeah, because even if they do a Switch
based on the
sports
name,
game,
Yeah.
it won't be called Wii Sports
Right.
Resort
I
2.
feel like that's
Right.
kind of a technical win because they could do another game that's like that but won't be called Wii.
Yeah.
and it
Remember-
did have a sequel, so I don't know if that because they're
You did, yeah.
But
and then
the-
they also, remember, made that weird, was it free-to-play version for the Wii U?
Yeah.
That was bizarre. Remember that?
I think that's a good answer though.
Yeah, I do
Yeah,
think
it's-
I remember that.
The entire industry kind of
Was-
remembers that. Wii
was that a
Sports.
dream?
You could buy the games piecemeal. You could buy like
That's
golf,
right.
and
Yeah, you could buy them
Yeah,
individually.
that was bizarre.
And nobody bought anything but bowling.
Right.
Yeah. Also, he says Tony Hawk, which I
I
could
think
see
we're.
them.
The
I mean, we
mobile
knew
one
it,
just
Tony.
came out.
Yeah, we just got it.
We're
with
still
Tony Hawk,
good,
and
though.
We
Yeah,
got another one like
It
3
actually
years ago.
just came out on Android. I think Friday.
Talk about
Is that any good,
zeitgeist.
Kyle?
No.
I have it on my phone. I've been debating deleting it
You could probably delete it.
without
Whoa.
even trying. it.
Henry from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
Henry.
Hey, dude and dudettes. Hello.
Henri, actually.
Hey, every once in a while, I'm trying to pay attention to these emails, and I hear a joke that you say, and it's a humdinger. Okay, here we go. Every now and then, speaking of which, every now and then a joke is so good on the
Oh, wow.
podcast. Never
time.
from shit. No, a joke is so good that you can hear Leo laugh from the booth in the background. So my question is, what is the criteria for a solid Leo-approved joke?
I think only Leo can answer that one.
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, when
He
I'm really...
says this question's for Kyle.
Oh, sorry.
I would not be surprised if someone did ask that.
No, it's fun. All right, Leo, what do you got?
Whenever I'm really surprised, really shocked, you know, because normally I try not to be too loud from the booth, so you really got to earn it. But if you want a free one, I can do one right now.
No, that's fine. So you need some shocking humor. You like cool, dark, edgy,
Yeah, shock jock kind of
Cards Against Humanity. Ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
I gotta say, on the rare occasion that I've said something, it's rare, and I hear Leo laugh, it is like the most satisfying. Like,
It's the only thing I care about
honestly,
Boy,
on planet Earth.
Speaking of Cards Against Humanity, and a previous question.
Yes, sir.
One of my biggest mistakes, my biggest blunders, you could say, was thinking that Cards Against Humanity would be a good game to play with my family. Having never played it,
man.
yeah. Well, my family liked Apples to Apples, and I heard it was kind of like that, so I brought it.
To be
my
fair,
brother,
it is.
my brother, who is now a pastor, and my parents.
Oh, this is perfect.
My brother unceremoniously put down the card that said Pac-Man uncontrollably.
all right.
Okay,
Yep, write
mark
that
that
down.
one on the board.
And said, I don't think we should play this one.
First time that word's been uttered on the podcast.
And hopefully the last.
We'll see.
We do talk about sex a lot on here.
Anyways, Joseph from Gresham, Oregon, also known as Canadian Online.
I did it, I think. I don't know.
Okay, shout out to Siege Buddies, Dan and Leo. My question is, if you are given $300 million to make a game, but it has to bomb on release or else you die, what do you make?
This is like a Ben Hansen gun to head question.
My initial thought is a game based on the last Airbender live action movie. No, that game wouldn't bomb. $300 million on a game, but it has to bomb or you will be killed.
A very complicated digital card game based on the Paw Patrol franchise.
Oh, that's
that might
smart.
be killer.
So like mixing and matching stuff, right?
Yeah, but
Where it's
artifact level complicated, but based on children, like
Right,
a toddler
right.
franchise.
Okay, I'll play this to prove that Chase is on the case. Here we
I
go.
am impressed that you.
I might play
I'm down
that.
with Paw Patrol.
I might play that.
I think.
Well, Dan, of course you would play. You'd be the
is
only
this
one.
bomb sales-wise or critically?
No, to make a bomb out of that will blow up a city. Yeah, sales-wise.
So Titanfall 3.
Oh.
That sounds funny.
You
I'd
put
make
the mic
a
down.
single-player tactical roguelike CCG that has a base cost and pay-to-win elements.
Okay, but it costs
My
$300 million.
interest just I think plummeted 30% with every word.
And what's the theme?
Let's see. I got
Paw Patrol.
Like you had me at single
robots.
player,
Just the most generic robots you can ever think of.
just generic. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good.
But where would the money, where would the spending come in?
Oh, we developed the hell out of that thing.
Yeah,
But what
They'd hire
would be the
best.
Charge
character design,
$60, lots of microtransactions.
Yeah, dude, the base game is going to be like $80.
Celebrity voices would cost a lot.
140 for the the collector's edition. Of
course,
And then
course.
every to use abilities, you need to buy gas. All right, you need to fuel your robot's abilities, and gas is like you got to wait for a timer.
Yeah.
Either that or pay money.
Right,
And
right,
for
right.
some reason, Sean Connery's likeness.
And the wait for gas is
And even
like
better,
the
like,
literal wait time it takes.
The only way
for
I could see that making
dinosaurs
money is
to
if some
develop.
crazy whale spent a bunch of money, but we'd have no rankings or leaderboards either. So there'd be no way, just no way it would happen.
That's
God,
smart.
we're so smart.
I was gonna say Mirror's Edge Catalyst 2, but you know what it is? You go like educational software. $300 million on like let's learn geometry, right? And just
wanna learn
really try and
geometry.
push it hard. I'd be into that crap.
Yeah, I
There's
mean,
a-
there were the parents who would be excited about that.
But what are they going to do? Go on the Today Show and be like, we spent $300 million on this educational software. Please purchase today.
It must be good.
Oh, I'm a parent. Travis Manick says, hello. As a stupid dare,
God.
please spend half a minute to a minute taking turns complimenting each other. Then
Okay.
bleep out all of the nice things you are saying.
What?
Dan, this is a very clear rule.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So
Wait, so 30
we each
seconds
have to take
each?
yeah. So
Holy
compliment each
hell.
other, right? I like Kyle's. I believe he's the most man on planet Earth. Like for example,
doctors?
things where I find myself getting. I'll find him just and going with it whenever we're in social situations, and it's like I'm just my here. Kyle will go out of his way to be like, no, person that might be right now. Stuff like that. I really appreciate that. Let's see. Also, Kyle is to most things.
Oh. So that's going to be all bleeped out?
I disagree with most of that, but okay.
Okay, take your turn. Dan Tech.
I like Brian Shea's.
Oh.
He likes to something until he gets it, and he does it.
Well, thank you. That's very nice of you, Dan.
Thank you.
I like the way Dan takes so seriously that he like he doesn't he will not things in what like really means. He really goes for it. No, I'm being serious. You're very nice with your and I think that Ben Hansen does a job. And I think that Kyle does an adequate job at everything he does.
Oh,
Very good.
Thank you.
Is that even a compliment?
I guess.
Kyle Hilliard?
Ben, you're very I've talked to you about this before.
is so
how I would
sweet.
like tips for how to be better when I things.
Oh, gosh. Less sarcasm.
Dan, you're the I think in the office.
That is
like,
true.
You're at everything you and you become an on it very quickly. And Shay, you're the funniest guy in the whole office. You everybody and like you're always and you wear clothes and you have shoes and
All right. That probably sounded weird for listeners.
Also, if I may,
Yes.
Leo has been an addition to the team.
He's the best since Tim Turry.
Leo's
Instead of
the-
1,000
Oh
years.
man, thanks.
Wow.
Leo's the guy maybe.
I believe that way.
Top 3 people.
Love you guys. Thank you.
All right. I don't know if that was
No
necessary.
need to
Bleep
bring
that one
up.
out, please.
Okay, Nick in Marietta, Georgia says, "Hey, crew. With the recent success of remastered titles like Resident Evil 2 and last year's Shadow of the Colossus, let's have some fun." Sorry.
I take back my good host.
I know. These listeners are so great for sending in emails. I don't know why I have to give them such personality. Pick one game listed below for each year to be remade. Ready?
All right.
Okay, so let's go around the horn here. So, Kyle, you have to choose a game from 1997. Which game's getting remade? Final Fantasy VII, Symphony of the Night, GoldenEye, Ultima Online, Grandia, Mortal Kombat Mythology Sub-Zero, Curse of Monkey Island, or Turok.
So are we discounting the ones that have truly been remade?
Like 7?
I would like a legitimate GoldenEye remake. I did not like the GoldenEye remake.
okay.
I would like one that just uses the original maps and stuff like that.
Right,
The,
and music.
the new one was just Call of Duty with a GoldenEye. Like,
Daniel Craig.
yeah, I was really
That
disappointed
was
by that.
so weird. Do you think Daniel Craig would remember that if you
No.
on the red carpet if you brought it up?
He's a big gamer. Like, he loves video games, and I think he was excited about being part of GoldenEye.
Really?
I would assume, yeah. So I think he might remember it. But yeah,
That was-
GoldenEye would be my pick among that list. Final Fantasy VII would be second, but that's like on the
Yeah.
way. So
What a weird
it, though?
move.
yeah, right.
How bizarre is that? Just like, well, let's remake GoldenEye, but not really. It's just like the most shameless. Let's get people to see the word GoldenEye on a shelf and effing buy it.
Yeah, and then I remember the there was the DS one. I
Yes.
was like, well, surely this one should just be a straight port. No,
Nope.
no good.
No good.
Yeah, Rare owns that, right?
Yeah, that's so complicated. I don't know who owns what in terms of GoldenEye, or if they were even allowed to fully remake it. It's confusing.
I think Boris owns it at this point. All right, 1998. Brian Shea. Choose one to get remade. Half-Life,
I know
Ocarina
which
of
one.
Time, Metal Gear Solid,
Ocarina.
Baldur's Gate,
remade.
StarCraft, or Banjo-Kazooie.
Ocarina of Time on Switch, Unreal Engine.
Unreal Engine.
Yep.
Oh, I've seen that YouTube video. I think
Yeah.
they're making that.
I
yeah.
think it would be very good.
This is confusing because
great.
also Baldur's Gate and StarCraft also kind of got remade essentially.
Yeah.
And
Wait,
Metal
what
Gear
were the
Solid,
other? What were the other
actually.
options?
But if we're talking about like, if we're
Wait,
talking
every
about,
one of these has been remade.
if we're talking about remake, it depends how we consider a remake. Like RE2 remake is so different than Shadow of
yes.
the Colossus.
Well, let's go level of RE2. All right, Dan.
Okay, level of RE2.
1999. This is your year, baby.
It is. That's when I
the sights,
graduated.
the sounds.
Year of Tack.
Silent Hill, Final Fantasy VIII, Driver, Chrono Cross, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Medal of Honor, Siphon Filter, or Ape Escape.
It's Silent Hill, easily. After I saw what they did with RE2, the things they could
Right.
do with that game. Oh,
Yeah.
Don't you kind of want to see Final Fantasy VIII though?
yes, I
Little
do.
bit.
But yeah, I only had one choice.
I get it. 2000 for me, Perfect Dark, Vagrant Story, Phantasy Star Online, SSX, Majora's Mask, Pokemon Stadium, Crazy Taxi. The
gotta-
RE2 remake, Vagrant Story is an oddball choice. Perfect Dark,
I would assume that for you.
well,
But they did that
they
sort of
just
remake.
did that. Honestly, I would go SSX. And not,
really?
look, they made that new game. It was called Deadly Descent, and they changed it to SSX. That's not a remake, but just to give it like a huge budget, $300 million budget, and if it bombs, they die, do SSX.
Just
I
have
think
one
we have to
song
change
in
every
it.
studio to that policy.
Yes. Okay.
Seems harsh, but the games will be better.
There's some thoughts here. Noah Allison writes in and says, "Hey, I underrate Prince and Janet Jackson. I like Janet Jackson. I didn't mean to bash Janet Jackson." Saying that Janet Jackson's Sign of the Times and The Velvet Rope are among the greatest works of art ever made.
All right.
I very much doubt that, but I respect Janet Jackson just fine. Ryan Clausen, that's Miss Jackson if you're nasty, by the way, Brian Shea, just in case you were confused.
I wasn't listening.
Ryan Clausen from San Diego says, "Hey everybody, the greatest work of art of all time is Papers, Please." Interesting. Appreciate it. John from Chandler, Arizona says it's The Godfather. Sure.
Interesting.
Andrew Grant
Maybe the
from
greatest movie.
Amherstburg, Ontario has a real humdinger.
Okay.
The question was, what is the greatest work of art
Of all time.
ever created by mankind on planet Earth? This person has a hot take that I'm a big fan of.
Okay.
Oh, then
Andrew Grant says, hey, Benjamin, Leo, and crew. Hello. It took some time, but I think I finally come up with the greatest work of art in human history. Macaroni and cheese. Something so simple that even a child could make, but is so hard to master that you can find it on the menu of numerous upscale restaurants. Add bacon or beef, top it with sauce or garnish. The pot is the canvas, and the noodles are the cheese or the paint. And if you happen to be lactose intolerant, they even have vegan cheese. Oh, come on. It is the one creation that is made every day in millions of homes, and every person makes it unique. Love listening to the show. I want to wish you all a very lovely Valentine's Day. We love you, Andrew Grant. That's a great
Food.
suggestion.
Food is the only art you appreciate by destroying.
Jeez, Kyle.
Interesting.
Isn't
Kyle's
that a
getting real
Dimitri
deep.
Martin joke?
Is it? Oh, I thought it was a Kyle joke. Damn it.
And you know, reading's the only skill that's involuntary.
What?
You ever think about that?
Like you.
It's the only thing you have to learn that you cannot not do.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can't look at something and not understand what it says.
Right.
Interesting.
Thank you.
Wait,
what-
that's a Dimitri Martin joke.
Wait a minute. Is this the Dimitri Martin show? What's your favorite email of the week?
I liked character handles, actually.
Oh, really?
I thought that was an interesting one. There were lots of good ones, don't get me wrong. But
Yeah.
I'm stuck on Sind and Dragoon.
Thank you.
Oh, it's Typhon.
Typhon Dragoon coming
Yeah.
from the makers of Final Fantasy.
That's not bad. I liked it's a classic industry one, but I like the Xbox Switch Love Fest. That's pretty good.
I like the remake one. Those are always fun. Where you give you a choice
Yeah.
of this or that or that or that.
That's okay. Yeah. I liked asking about Leo's sense of humor. I liked the game that has to bomb on release.
That's
Actually,
that's
yeah.
a creative one.
I like, you know
I
what?
like that one.
I like the experiment. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Okay.
Bomb on release.
There we go. Bomb and release. That is Joseph from Gresham, Oregon. Put it on the big board. Congratulations, Joseph. Very exciting. That's fun. Thank you so much for everybody that wrote into podcast@gameformer.com. Be sure to write in next week with what you think is the greatest work of art of all time made by human beings.
By the way, I love this ongoing thread. I think it's so good.
Thank you. As for now, stay tuned for an interview with the producer of the Earth Defense Force series, EDF, here in studio. This is Nobuyuki Okajima
In studio.
in studio.
Nice.
Enjoy. Okajima, welcome to the Game Informer Show, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, what are you guys doing out here in Minnesota?
ミネソタはとにかく寒いですね。
It's very cold here.
We're very sorry. It's a beautiful. You feel like this is peak Minnesota. This is our natural environment right now.
外は自然な感じのミネソタでいつもこんな感じなんですよ。
もう寒くて寒くて
Very
も
cold and very impressive. You guys have a great life here.
Yeah, we're a hardy breed, I think. Keisuke, thank you for translating. It's very odd to have a translator on the podcast, but I think it's a novel thing. So I hope listeners understand that there's going to be a little bit of delay every now and then.
I'll do my best.
Okay.
And I'll have fun.
Okay,
Thank you for
fantastic.
having us today.
Oh my gosh, it's an honor to have you. It's so rare to have somebody from the EDF series here. So you're a producer for EDF overall then?
そうですね。はい。
Yes, I
Yes.
am.
Okay. And how long have you been with the series?
最初からですから15年ぐらい。
It's been 15 years since the first EDF.
Wow. And how long have you been in the industry even before that?
年がわかるのであんまり言いたくないですけど、25年ぐらいかな。
I'll guess 25 total
Wow.
in the industry, gaming industry.
Okay, I looked you up a little bit. Did you work on a PlayStation 2 game called The Sniper 2?
Yes.
What was your role with that game?
The Sniper 2。 ゲームプロデューサー。
Oh,
I was game
wow.
producer.
That's wild. There's a member of our community named Hillary who is a giant fan of The Sniper 2, and she bought it for us, and we actually played it live in front of a room at GlitchCon years ago, and it was very fun to have a whole room react when you finally got the shots going in The Sniper 2.
そうなんですか。ザ・スナイパー2のイベントがあったんですか。
イベント別の要はゲームイベントで。
へえ、そうなんです、ね。
I didn't know that. I was so that's really good. That's really great to hear that.
Oh, good. All right.
全く知らなかったです。
I didn't know at all.
What are your memories of working on that game?
もう ちろん覚えてますけど、
So I kind of remember, but back then I was working on more than 30 titles for Simple 2000 series a year. So as you can imagine, I was really busy. So I don't remember the detail.
How is it possible to produce that many titles?
全てのゲームを
So for each title, they had their own creative team. They're all small, but I was giving them the direction and those feedbacks for each titles.
まあなんでそんなにできたかというと、なんででしょうね。自分でもわからないですね。
I actually don't even know why I was working so hard at that time. It was a corporate decision that we have to make. We had to make 30 to 40 titles a year, and we only had 2 producers. I was one of them.
So are you just traveling from development team to development team, just checking in for 10 minutes and then just running to the next office? Or how does this work?
あ、そこまではないですね。そんなことはなかったです。
It wasn't that intense, but it's similar.
Okay, similar. And have you always been on the production side, or did you start on level design, or how did you get your start in the industry?
I was hired as a computer graphic designer.
まあコンピューターデザイナーグラフCG デザイナーっていうと聞こえがいいんですけど、いわゆるドッターですよ。ドット職人ってやつ
I
で
was
すか
a
ね。
dot artist back then. That was my first position in the gaming industry.
Oh, wow. So what generation of systems? Like what was the first hardware you worked on?
スーパーファミコンかな。
Super Nintendo.
What games did you work on back then?
プロレスゲームとかドットを置いて
It
ま
was
した
a
ね。
wrestling game.
Oh, okay.
あと PC エンジンとかね。
Some titles, different titles for PC Engine.
Do you miss those days? Did you like working within those technological constraints?
I do miss those days, except I didn't like the working overnight.
There's a lot of late nights for you.
Late nights, yeah. So our team was small. So as we get towards to the end of the development, we start staying a lot later to do the testing and debugging. So that was one of our assignment. So
Okay.
we used to stay 6 days a week. We used to stay late until very late, in 6 days a week, which is almost every day.
And so that was more difficult than when you were producing 30 to 40 titles.
I was younger, so I enjoyed both of them. So like working on the 30 titles for the simple series and working on the dot art as a designer. It was completely different type of strength and challenges.
And now you just get to sit back and relax and work on the EDF, and I'm imagining it's very easy and relaxed.
You're right. I produce 3-4 titles a year now, so I can spend more time on each title now.
Yeah. Do you think that leads to a higher level of quality overall?
当然そうなります。
Definitely, yes. So that's for sure, because all the players and our fans, they're expecting more. They want to see more quality and better gameplay. So I'm trying to meet that for every single EDF title.
Yeah. Do you feel like EDF is is like the prime game in your history? Like you consider yourself the main game that you're most proud of is the EDF series overall?
It's hard to say because every single games that I produced, they're all my children. They're all the same. I think that credit goes to developers and development teams. I'm happy when people see this EDF as a high quality game, which I'm hoping always. I've been hoping always, but I think that credit goes to the dev team. I mean, they really work hard to bring the quality that I want and the fans want.
Yeah. Can we go back to the start of the EDF series? What was the first meeting? What were the first earliest discussions like for bringing EDF to life?
あとですね、そんなに感動的な話はなくてですね。
There's no epic story behind this.
Oh,
but
there has to be. Make one up if there's not.
like I said, I was already producer for Simple 2000 series back then. So out of 30 Simple 2000 series titles that I was working on, half of them, which is let's say 15 of them, they're all from our side, which means we think that these 15 ideas and concept it's gonna go well. So so that was like A titles. Another 15, those are more like a B titles, or it was like open for those developers and indie designers to pitch to D3P. So the first EDF idea came from the company called Sunless, which is the developer for all the EDF numbered titles to D3P. So it was categorized as like a B title. So it was from outside. So I knew the Sunless company itself, not everyone, but the president and some of the key members. So president brought 2 ideas back then to Okajima-san, saying, hey, we would like to pitch 2 ideas. And then Okajima-san really liked both of them. And EDF was one of them. And then we ended up doing only EDF.
Okay. What attracted you to the idea? What did you like about it?
いい質問ですね。
That's actually a good question. Thank you. We had a weekly meeting back then, which Simple 2000 series idea will take. So we were producing 30 to 40 titles a year. That means almost every month we had 3 or 4 titles up and running simultaneously, right? So that means we have to pick and kick off the new Simple series titles, like 3 to 4 ideas every month for next year.
That's absurd. It's so many games.
So what in the one of the meeting that we decide which idea we'll take for the next year, right? So we're supposed to take 3 or 4. Everyone in the room has to vote which idea they like. So you have one vote, right? So everyone voted. Start voting whichever they like. So we ended up picking up EDF in that meeting, but it wasn't the top choice. It was very, it was like a 50-50 almost. So EDF barely survived in that meeting. So I clearly remember in that meeting, I had an impression of this particular idea for EDF is that, you know, we're talking about the Simple 2000 series, which is equal to $20 game.
Okay.
You have to also look at the business balance as well, not only the creative, artistic balance. I mean, creatively, I thought that's a brilliant idea. I really liked the concept, but the business standpoint, there are few people who didn't like. Who thought it's a big risk.
Just because it seemed like it's the type of game that could be more expensive to develop?
They proposed with the budget, you know, asking for the certain amount of budget that was already exceeded from what we are expecting. So that was, yes. So that was the business, you know, risk there. You know, it could cost more than what we want to pay. So there was a big discussion there in the meeting.
But then once the game started to go along in development, you had more and more faith in it? It got beyond that 50-50 dividing line?
So first of all, 50% of people who disagree with this concept, they still, the reason why they disagree was it was a different scope and vision from the original Simple 2000 series original concept, which is always a sports card game, very simple table games, right? So this action shooting game is completely different from those vision and path. So those are people who disagree with the concept. They were the same through the development, unfortunately.
But then it ended up being a surprise hit?
どうなりましたかって言っても別にどうもならないですね。売れてよかったと思ってるだけですね。
So they were happy. Because of the hit. I think they ended up being very supportive to myself because obviously it wasn't their personal, feeling, go against the idea. It was strictly like a business risk, or it was a different vision that they had. So once we get green light, develop the game and ship it to the market, especially after the big success of EDF, everyone was very happy about the, it was received pretty well.
Yeah. And now the EDF series moving into the future, the budget has gotten larger and larger. Is that fair to say?
So we didn't do big campaign to promote this first EDF. Obviously, it was a community. People talked about it. So the development cost didn't go a lot bigger for a while, just because it was still under Simple 2000 series umbrella. So instead, the marketing budget has been gone quite higher because the first EDF hit.
Okay, gotcha. Do you feel like there's a certain charm inherent to the EDF series because of the smaller development budget? Do you feel like if this game had a $200 million budget or something absurd, it would lose a certain magical feel that players love about the EDF series?
その通りだと思います。
I agree with you. I think you're right. I think we were able to come up with this great idea because of the budget was so tight.
What is it? What leads to that magical vibe from a game where you can tell that they're working within constraints?
So here's why. Number one, the Simple series has been popular already for the casual light users in Japan back then.
はい。
And also young players.
Okay.
So all the creators, including Sunless, understood that concept. That this game has to be very and extremely simple. I think simply that the development term was so short, and the budget was so low, that gave us no option. So we didn't have time to add more features. Well, it was opposite. We have to take out all the extras until we hit the core gameplay. The core gameplay is the one we have currently. Still right now, I mean, it's the same, but we found that core on the first EDF. That's the big hit. That was big for us.
Right. So now the new game is Earth Defense Force Iron Rain, and it's shifted away from Sandlot as the developer. Is that right?
はい。
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and now it's Yuke's?
Yuku-san.
Yuku
Yes.
さん。
Ah, what's the reason for that change?
First of all, it was my mission to deliver the EDF franchise to bigger audience outside of Japan. The shortcut to do that is bring the regular Earth Defense Force, like numbered, like for instance 5, which just came out last year, to overseas, like outside of Japan.
Right.
あるんですが、
However, so as you know, the EDF, original EDF, all the way up to 5, it's been big hit in Japan. It's really popular still now. At the same time, if you look at the outside of Japan, it's still kind of hardcore games for hardcore gamers. So to deliver that regular numbered EDF to bigger audience outside of Japan, I interface with some issues and problems. I thought maybe EDF game has to be redesigned or optimized somehow to get more familiar with those bigger those casual gamers in different countries. That was the beginning of the project.
So did you try and go for a developer like Yuke's that has had success in the West with their WWE games? Was that the idea of they know how to develop games that have appealed to the West?
Yes, you're right. That's correct. So that's why we picked the Yuke's, because they have experience working on the Western titles. but at the same time, we didn't really want to change the original concept and game development on the Sandlot side. So asking this project to Sandlot, we thought that's a little bit challenging because we wanted to change the looks and game design and art style and even like a background or stage. Now we're based on we're using like a like San Francisco type of stage.
Okay.
So I think it was hard to ask that to Sandlot. And Ukes was the right partner to work with.
Yeah. Is it fun to produce a game like EDF?
もちろんです。
Of course.
Yeah?
私は仕事ではゲームプロデューサーで、EDF シリーズを担当してますけれども、実は EDF ゲームの、一番のファンでもありますから。
I believe I'm a number one EDF fan.
Anybody you can't be stumped in trivia for EDF. You're the best.
もうビルドが更新されるたびにもう喜んでゲームやってますからね。
So as you know, every week, every time they update the build, I'm the one who's gonna play, and I enjoy every single version.
So you can't change the series because you're keeping it very specific. This is the way it needs to be because I know the most. I love it just this way.
そうですね。はい。
That's correct.
Okay. I got it. That's perfect. What's been the most fun thing for producing EDF throughout your entire history? Was there one event or just moment with the development team? What stands out as the most fun you've ever had with the development side?
難しいですね。
It's hard to answer.
I know.
でもね、
But I have
一番
few.
エキサイトしたのは、
One of the most exciting moment in my career around EDF development side is when the EDF Symphonies 2000 became a full version, the full game of EDF back then.
ハードもその PS2 から、Xbox 360に変わったんですけれども、
So it went from PlayStation 2 to Xbox 360.
Okay.
I was so excited to hold it like a full game with a full price for Xbox 360 in high definition. That was the one of the most excited moments.
Because you felt the most proud, like we finally made it. This is going on store shelves right next to everything else.
想像しただけでもう勝手に泣きますよね。
I actually cried.
When you held the disc, or what was the moment?
Hear the disc, yeah.
Okay.
So he was so happy when that came alive. I was on the development side, so it was like a year before we released the game. I mean, it was still early stage for that full version of the EDF, but I was already envisioning like how we gonna design the box front and the posters and marketing campaign, PR, all that.
That does sound fun. Is EDF always going to be around?
EDF はこれからも続きますか？
もちろん。
Of course. For sure.
You're looking forward to working on it the rest of your life, just sticking with EDF?
Of course, especially what I'm looking forward to is like all the feedback for EDF IR, which is the brand new product line for EDF franchise. So I'm really looking forward to hear a lot of fans and people playing the game and giving us all the feedback, what they like, what they don't like, and then so that it will motivate me to work on the next one.
Yeah. What's your favorite piece of feedback you've ever received, or favorite fan interaction?
It's not a direct message from fans to myself, but when I see like people commenting on how many hours they spent, like sometimes I see hundreds of hours they spent because of the EDF has a high volume, like lots of levels and items to play with. So when I see that, that makes me really happy.
I bet. That's awesome. Well, I hope you get the best possible feedback for the new game coming out.
そうですね。そう願いたいですね。
I'm really hoping so.
Yeah. And for coming all the way to Minnesota, we have a gift for you.
ミネソタまでわざわざ来ていただいたので、ちょっとギフトがあります。岡島さんに。
Very unexpected.
これ秘密
Get
だったん
ready.
です。
Get ready for this. This is every year we have something we call Extra Life, which is a marathon where we stream games for charity. And this year had a certain theme where we had to eat disgusting things. And we had this left over, so it's our gift to you, sir.
これギフトなんですけど、これ岡島さんぜひもらってもらいたいんです。実はこれ毎年その何かテーマを決めてチャリティーイベントみたいなものを行うんですけど、そこで使ったアイテムでもう岡島さんにはぴったりだと思って今日持ってきました。
本当だ。なんだろう、巨大生物がキャンディーの中にいます。
So I see my favorite insects inside a candy.
Yeah, it's a sucker for listeners and viewers with a bunch of ants inside of it.
Ants inside.
これカメラどこ
そうです。岡島さん大好きなアリが飴の中にいます。完璧じゃないですか。
これ食べれるやつですかね。
This is edible, right?
Yeah, have you ever eaten ants, sir?
アリは食べたことありますか？
ないですね。
Never.
ないです。
Okay, we're not going to put you on the spot, but look, if you get hungry later, you're welcome to chomp it.
今じゃなくてもいいですけど、後でお腹空いたらぜひ食べてみてください。
そうですね。すごくありがたいです。ありがたすぎてですね。これはサンドロットのクリエイターたちにお土産にしようかなって今検討してます。
So he's thinking maybe he'll bring this back to Japan for Sunlot folks. So I think they're gonna enjoy it for sure.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, man.
今日は来てくれてありがとうございました。
Great. And thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Overall Game Informer Show podcast. We'll be back next week with a new episode. See you, everybody.